Good evening. This is the regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona, to be held April 4th, 2023 at 6 p.m. at the Cottonwood Recreation Center. And we're going to have our Deputy Clerk take the roll. Thank you. I'll speak louder.
Councilmember DeWillis.
Here.
Councilmember Duvernay.
Here.
Councilmember Karat.
Present.
Councilmember Naren. Here. Vice Mayor Weldon.
Here.
And Mayor Linsky.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stand to join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, up next is a brief summary of current events by the mayor, city council, and/or city manager. The public body does not propose, discuss, deliberate, or take legal action on any matter brought up during the summary unless the specific matter is properly noticed for legal action. Council members, do you have anything to report? No? All right. Mr. Rodriguez?
Mayor and City Council, I've just got one item. Last week, Chief Gazelle represented the Verde Valley Wine Trail and the City of Cottonwood in a meeting with a number of APS executives in town for a 3-day retreat. The meeting focused on what APS can do to assist local businesses. Those interested in learning more about the wine trail can go to www.winetrail.com or download the new Verde Valley Wine Trail app at the Apple or Google Play stores. Thank you, Mayor, Council.
Great, thank you. All right, up next is call to the public. This portion of the agenda is set aside for the public to address the council regarding an item that is not listed on the agenda for discussion. However, the council cannot engage in discussion regarding any item that is not officially listed on the agenda for discussion and/or action, and comments are limited to a 3-minute time period. If you'd like to speak to the council this evening, I think most of you know the rules here. You fill out a yellow form, right? We may run out of yellow, so it might be white, but it'll be a form that's available over here. And then they'll pass it up to me, and I'll read you in the order that I received these. And so we have quite a few folks here, and all these forms are to speak about the upcoming event on April 8th, the Pride event. So we've got a handful of folks here that want to speak. You're all more than welcome to take the 3 minutes. However, if you just want to say you support or do not support, you're more than welcome to do that as well, and we'll be able to get through this in relative short order, but I'm guessing it's going to be about 2 hours. I know a lot of you are familiar faces at this point, but I'll just go over a couple ground rules first. Is we cannot discuss this with you, so this isn't a two-way conversation. We can only listen to you, and you have 3 minutes. So by the time you come up to the podium, we'll set a little timer. And when the timer goes off, it's an annoying little beep, and I'll have to cut you off. I've got to be as fair as possible with everyone that comes up to speak. Please address your comments directly to the full council. Try not to single out any individual council member. We would appreciate that. Please face the council when you speak, and don't turn around and ask a question or speak to the audience behind you. We don't want to make a spectacle of this meeting. We are here to listen to you, but please don't make a spectacle out of our meeting. We would appreciate that very much. No applause. It doesn't help matters at all, and we're not recording it, so it doesn't help anything at all to applause. If you want to show your support, folks in the past have been showing a thumbs up or have stood up or thumbs down. That's fine. It's not interruptive in any way, so that's a good way to show your support or not. Is there anything I'm missing? No. I'm going to cue you up one at a time. So I'll call the name of the first one up, then I'll cue up the next person. You're more than welcome to stand up behind the person in the podium. We'll get through this just as quickly as we can, out of respect for all of your time. So first up is Cindy B. And then following Cindy B is Rebecca Riffle.
Mayor Linsky and City Council members, thank you for your time to hearing me. Racism is the process by which systems and policies, actions and attitudes create inequitable opportunities and outcome of people based on race. Racism is more than prejudice. in thought or action. It occurs when this prejudice, whether individual or institutional, is accompanied by the power to discriminate against, oppress, or limit the right of others. Racism includes all laws, policies, ideologies, and barriers that prevent people from experiencing justice, dignity, and equal becoming of their own identity. Are we becoming that community? Are we teaching our children that because someone is different, either in color or identity, we should not allow the difference that prevents justice, dignity, and equal because of their racial identity? I don't know about you, but this mentally can create abuse, harassment, and leading into violence or intimidating behaviors, i.e. hate crimes. This is written by the Human Rights Commission, not by me. Again, are we going to be that community where we are not to express our human rights and are exploded if we do so? I stand on my own opinion, and I'm not represented by any organization or institution. I, for one, do not want to be that community of judgment. My mother was in theater, and I was introduced to gays, lesbians, drag queens, transgenders, African Americans, Asians, Hispanics, Native Americans, and Jews. My mother asked me just before she passed if she was a good mother. I responded by thanking her with the amazing gift of the rainbow of people she introduced me to. I have many rainbows I love, and many of them are sitting here in the audience. I am grateful for them, and I want to live in a community of love and compassion. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Riffle, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Kelly Moffitt.
Ooh. Hello, council members and everyone here. My name is Rebecca. I'm a local business owner here in Cottonwood, and I've grown up here in the Verde Valley. I grew up in Sedona, and I opened a business here in Cottonwood about 10 years ago, and I've been a pretty active member of this community. I take pride in the fact that we've operated a business here in Cottonwood that's a safe place. It's inclusive for everyone, and one that members of the LGBTQIA community and those that are certainly also not a part of that community can all coexist. I'm coming from a place of personal experience from someone who has been hosting drag areas or drag shows in this community for about 10 years. And even at my place, I can say that we all coexist. I see it on a daily basis at my establishment. And at the end of the day, if you actually listen to both sides that we're all gonna hear tonight, I think that we all want the same thing innately. We want a safe community where you feel safe, where our voices are heard, our rights are upheld, and where the children of this community are safe and protected. But you see, that needs to go both ways. Because whether you like it or not, there are a lot of people in the LGBTQIA community living, working, owning businesses here in this town. There's also quite a few openly gay, even transgender children that live here as well. They attend our high school, and they and their lives matter too. They deserve to be able to attend an event, if they so choose, where they feel free to be themselves and have support of a loving community behind them. They deserve to know that although they may get bullied at school for their life choices, that they are not alone and that they do have support. And this is what this Pride Tour and making it an all-ages event is all about. It's not forcing you to go. It's not forcing your children to go. Nobody's asking you to go. It's just asking to have one day, to have a safe space for these kids that typically don't feel safe being themselves in the world right now. They don't feel supported in this community. So please, if you object, stay home. Your children, stay home. The event will go on and you will know no different. But it can make a difference for those who feel like they don't belong, who get bullied and feel like they don't have the allies, to be themselves for fear every day. Oh, God. Is my voice echoing? Yes. Where was I? Sorry, that scared me, hearing me over. I bring this up. It can make a big difference for a teenager who's felt alone in the community and they feel that suicide is their only option. I bring this up as not a trigger word, but as someone who's experienced the loss of a childhood friend who did commit suicide in his driveway at the age of 13 years old. It wasn't because of drag shows, I guarantee you that. What I can tell you and speak of after hosting these events for years
Ms.
in
Riffle.
this very community,
So sorry, but your
that's
time's up.
okay.
Yep,
Thank you.
Yep. All right, Kelly Moffitt, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Linda Parent.
Evening, Mayor, council members, staff. I'm Kelly Moffitt. I've lived here in the Verde Valley for about 36 years, raised our kids here, and have enjoyed living here, mostly because we've enjoyed the small town and the many good benefits that go along with living in a small town. Not the least of which has been the ability to raise our children in a safe environment. The largest issue that has been raised here over the past several council meetings regarding this particular event next week has been children's safety. And it still is the biggest issue. And so we are very concerned because our questions have not been answered. Now, you gave the rules a short while ago, Mayor, about what can go on during the call to the public. And you said, you know, you're bound by not, the rules not to respond to us, but you're the ones, you're putting it in that part of the agenda. This issue should have been on the agenda because we need to talk to our politicians. We need to hear from you. We don't know where you all stand. We know we left, a council member has left, apparently resigned, and I don't know if it had anything to do with this particular issue or not. But in any event, the event will, I suppose, go on next week. I'm not sure. We're just not getting any details about it. But we've all done a job here at these meetings of conveying our feelings and our sentiments in a very respectful way. And I think you would agree with that. I don't think we've done anything that you've asked us not to do. But I've heard churches demeaned at the last meeting, and nothing was done to stop that. And you should have. You should not have allowed that because the churches are not here, the ones that we're talking about here. And they were maligned and compared to the drag queen event, and the drag queen event was exalted, and the churches were diminished and thrown down and say, you know, it's better for children to be at a drag event. You should have stopped that, and I hope we don't have that repeated tonight. But leaving this off the agenda is irresponsible. It's bad management because we're not hearing from you. You folks are here as our elected officials. We need to hear where you stand, and we're not hearing it. And a little bit, perhaps, from just a couple, but we need to know where you stand because you're not going to run unopposed at the next election. And so it's nice to know where your politicians stand before you cast your votes. But the potential danger to children from this event is immeasurable. We don't know just what can happen, and neither do you. And so we can deduce only by your actions that perhaps you just don't care. You should care. And, you know, children are the parents' responsibility, first and foremost. But you will hear from some parent's attorney for a child that shows up to this event and is treated in a way they shouldn't be. And their attorney is going to let you know that this was a co-sponsored event, whether you like to admit it or not. The city has co-sponsored this event, and we pray for the children. You know, the Bible tells us there are 6 things the Lord hates. The first one mentioned is a proud look.
Mr. Moffitt, I'm so sorry, your time is up.
I
Thank
know
you, sir.
it is. I know it is, and I'm not going to try and go long here, but a proud look is really an arrogant smirk, and several of you on the council have mastered that. And
Mr.
you might
Moffitt,
want to
thank
think
you, sir.
about that.
Your
Think
time
about
is
who
up.
hates
Thank
it.
you. Linda Parent, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Rick Parent.
Hello. I spoke at the last meeting about my personal experience with sexual perversion. Both of my daughters were sexually abused at a very young age. My best friend and her sister were both horrifically sexually abused all of their childhood. And I worked as a crisis counselor in domestic abuse for 14 years. I have seen and heard a lot. The cost to the victims of abuse and to society is immeasurable. I don't understand why you're not taking all of our concerns seriously. It's interesting that a sexual union between a man and a woman is referred to as straight, a straight couple. What does that make a sexual union between non-straight people? It seems like it would make it bent or twisted. If you were building a house, you would want to make sure that your foundation is straight and strong so that your house can withstand all the storms of life. It's the same way with children. They need to have a strong and straight, good foundation so they will be able to handle all the storms of life, especially the storms of peer pressure, drug addiction, alcoholism, and even self-harm. I adamantly oppose allowing this event to take place. Thank you.
Thank you. Rick Parent, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Donna O'Daniel.
Mayor, town council members, and Cottonwood employees. I've attended the last 4 council meetings, and in each meeting has been opened by you, Mr. Mayor, as asking for a respectful dialogue from all those in attendance and have commended those in attendance for their polite behavior. I find it curious that you treat the good people of Cottonwood with such contempt and disrespect by ignoring your own rules about respect. There is no conversation here, and it's very clear it's a simple us versus them situation. You, as well as the whole town council, including the city manager, were hired to look after our best interest, and it appears you are not on our side, which leads to question, whose side are you on? It would seem that that you are either a coward or just plain evil. Elections do have consequences, and we're seeing them play out right before our very eyes. It's a truly sad day for Cottonwood. By muzzling the council members' right to free speech and dialogue with the community, you've exposed yourself as part of the evil that has overtaken this country. Evil advances when good men do nothing, but I suggest the good men and women of Cottonwood have entrusted their elected representatives to do their bidding so they can do good by their loved ones, friends, communities, and businesses. I fear you have awakened a sleeping giant and that now you are on a sinking ship. All of you at the front of this room are guilty by association and by not saying anything at these meetings, regardless of the mayor's commands. You all may want to consider working on your plan Bs because all your political careers and aspirations are over. As you look at the crowd in front of you, you will see the next mayor, city council members, and Cottonwood employees. You are all done. This evil will utterly be routed from the town of Cottonwood, and I declare this today in the name of the King of the universe, creator of all things, his son Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. I pray you repent while you still can, and that God may adjust the severity of your impending consequences. And it pains me to say this, but one of you may want to get your house in order, as I believe you will not see 2024. I don't know you, but God does, and I'm truly sorry for what's happened in your life. I know it's not been easy for you, and God sees your pain. Please invite him in so your remaining days may be full of peace and joy, and that your eternal reward would be the same forever. Council members, I pray that you all enter the kingdom and truly enjoy the life God has for you today and forever. If any of you have anything to say, don't wait. It will haunt you for the rest of your lives. So I'm thinking now would be a good time. Thank you.
Donna O'Daniel, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Barry Jones.
Thank you.
Mayor and city councilors, today 2 phrases have taken on antithetical meanings: family-friendly and gender-affirming. My mother was very wise, being both family-friendly and gender-affirming, as she raised my older sister, my younger brother, and me. My sister was all girl, loving to play with dolls, while I, on the other hand, rejected dolls, choosing to play outside with my brother and neighbors Jack and Dan. Our toys: basketballs, footballs, marbles, and boxing gloves. But Mom knew that time and biology have a way of sorting things out. And they did, with no gender dysphoria, puberty blockers, or irreversible mutilation of genitalia. The Bible says God created them male and female. In the New Testament, Jesus asked the Pharisees, quote, "Haven't you read that he which made them in the beginning made them male and female?" Close quote. Webster's dictionary states that gender means, quote, "the fact or condition of being a male or a female human being," close quote. There are just two genders. But the transgender drag queens pervert the meaning of family-friendly and gender-affirming and are not honest about the risks inherent in their ideology. Consider, recently in Scotland, a drag queen taught a lesson on sex ed to 11-year-olds, telling them that there are at least 73 genders. Parenthetically, where is the list explaining them? It does not exist. Back to the story. When one boy said there were just males and females, the drag queen responded, quote, "You have upset me, so go out." The boy was forced to leave the classroom. The drag queen then taught the other 11-year-olds about oral and anal sex using visual aids. The children were so traumatized that some of them could not verbalize to their parents what had transpired in the classroom. Closer to home, the Gender and Sexuality Development Program in Philadelphia offers gender transitioning to children. Clinic employees use puberty blockers and hormone therapy on 8-year-olds. They refer 14-year-olds for top surgery, i.e. mastectomies, which are mutilating God-given genders. Now public 18-year-old Chloe Cole was affirmed at age 14 in her desire to be a boy. Given puberty blockers and underwent top surgery, she regrets it all now and has detransitioned, but her whole life as a fulfilled woman has been destroyed. If you believe that there is nothing wrong with these examples of purposeful, immoral madness, you should not be representing the city of Cottonwood. Thank you.
Barry Jones, you're up next. You'll be followed by Catherine Ciso. Yeah.
Honorable Mayor and City Councilors, I am here once more to address the issue of what aberrant sexuality and so-called gender ideology has forced upon us. I don't address the individuals, but the ideology that they espouse. I've said before, we did not choose this fight, but we intend to never submit to the demands of this insane philosophy. At the same time, we accept and celebrate the intrinsic humanity of the people who have been deceived into believing and promoting this society-destroying worldview. We love them, as our Lord Jesus has taught us. We have received much mercy ourselves, and therefore would very much like to engage in conversation on a personal level with those who are committed to the destruction of the Judeo-Christian foundation of our nation. In the meantime, we cannot accept and celebrate an ideology based on lies which will destroy the communities and freedoms we love. What are these lies? First, they include the idea that tolerance means anything goes, except, of course, the belief that there are sexual norms and boundaries set by Almighty God. False idea number two, a small portion of the population just want the freedom to love who they want to. No, they demand approval of what God condemns, and they demand celebration of deviancy. Their end game is to use the force of law to crush and silence any and all voices for traditional morality. False assumption number three, sexual attractions defined sexual identity. Biology, procreation, and universal religious thought reject this proposition. Philosophically, the values of faithful adherence to a single partner, the nuclear family, and of joint father-mother nurturing of children would not survive the degrading passions this assumption will unleash. No amount of glamorizing or marketing this deviant view of human sexuality can change the fact that degradation results from believing this lie. False assumption number 4, freedom of choice applies absolutely to consenting sexual behavior. The horrendous cost of this sexual anarchy to society, ours, we witness every day. Divorce with its concomitant harms, particularly to children. The plague of STDs, the meteoric rise of fatherlessness, and the almost unbelievable and profoundly unnatural separation of the mother's and father's interests from the children's who are murdered before their first breath.
Catherine Ciso, you are up next, and you'll be followed by Eleanor Kirk.
Hello, council members. Trying to condense this into 3 minutes is very difficult, but I will try. I did some research today. As of this morning, there were 1,283 signatures on the petition against the quote-unquote show. And the population, as currently as I could find it, of Cottonwood, Arizona, is 12,000, I believe it was 12,924 people. That averages roughly 9.27% of the population of Cottonwood has signed the petition. Now, I read also an email from Mr. Hall addressed to the City Council where he stated that the majority of the City of Cottonwood wants this event to go on. That would be true if the 90+% of people who did not sign the petition were in fact in favor of this event. However, this figure includes people who are A, in assisted living facilities and unable to understand these concepts, such as my grandfather, Pete Ciso, who I'm also speaking on behalf of, who was a pillar of this community for 20 years. It does not include children below the age of 18. You had to be 18 to sign the petition. It does not include those who are against it but simply do not want to get involved for myriad reasons. So is it true that 90+% of the town is for this show? Frankly, there's no evidence to support that. There's no evidence stating how many people approve. So Mr. Hall cannot state that the majority of this town is in favor of this show. I have personal experience with someone from the LGBTQ community. My father sexually abused me, and this is the first time I'm coming out in public about this. He sexually abused me, and each time he was dressed in drag. Do I believe all people in the LGBTQ community are pedophiles? Absolutely not. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when he dressed in drag, he had the big hair, the fake breasts, the sexual movements that are performed on stage in front of children. Those were all aspects that he exhibited and that most drag queen shows from the research I've done are okay with. Again, I am not stating that LGBTQ community members are pedophiles. I will never say that. What I will say is that I was, for many, many years, a diehard liberal. I would have supported this event 4 years ago, even. What changed my life was Jesus Christ. I was searching my whole life for joy and peace, and I found it in Jesus. Thank you.
Eleanor Kirk, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Christy DiMartino.
Mayor, City Council. A week ago, I spent a valuable hour talking about the drag queen event with a man from Phoenix who was staunchly in favor of it. He was polite and persuasive, a philosophy major who enjoyed mulling over ideas. He felt that people were simply born that way and we need to respect what they think they are and love and support their choices. I would have espoused the same viewpoint had I not been reading my Bible. The only difference between those who support the drag queen event and those who oppose it is that the former seem to believe that man is free to act in any way he chooses with no consequences. The latter believe that an unchangeable God established an absolute moral code for the people he created and will one day reward or punish them for how they relate to his authority. That's why we are praying for everyone connected with this event. I'm saddened to hear the propaganda of hate. There is no hate, only disagreement. I attend 3 or 4 prayer meetings a week in which Christians plead with earnest tears for the performers, organizers, and attendees, as well as the mayor and city council. We understand that those who oppose God stand on shaky ground, and we don't want a single one to be lost on the great and terrible day of the Lord. On that day, when every knee bows to Jesus Christ and every tongue confesses that he is Lord, no one will say, I don't go to church. Why are they reading the Bible to me? Please understand that you are not opposing the citizens who speak out in these meetings. You are opposing Almighty God, who created man in his own image, male and female. And the story never ends well for the man who opposes God. All but 8 of the humans on earth in Noah's day perished in a flood, as hundreds of ancient stories report. Only 4 people escaped the fire and brimstone that destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. Man counts heads. How many are for it? How many against it? He consults his intelligence. What do I think about this? Or his emotions. How do I feel about it? Only one question matters. What does Almighty God say about it?
Christy DiMartino, you're up next. You'll be followed by Linda Buchanan.
Council members and mayor, I think this is the 4th meeting that I've been to, and I've sat and I've listened to everything that everyone said, and I really can't add much. The only thing that I want to say is, first of all, we are not against the gay community. I have dear friends that are gay, and to be profiled as racist and haters is not right. And I'm here to speak as a voice for the children. We are obligated to protect the children, and you are obligated to protect the children, and I vote for the children.
Linda Buchanan, you're up next. You'll be followed by, I believe it's Shar Clark.
Good evening. I'm Linda Buchanan. I've lived and worked in the Verde Valley for more than 40 years. I know some of you professionally from working together on matters of local and regional importance, especially relating to education, the environment, and economic development. Tonight I stand before you to address the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and access in all matters of community building. Recently I've read, heard, seen significant community engagement regarding this LGBTQ-sponsored performance event scheduled in your civic venue. I support this event and admire the way Council has vetted various elements of ensuring its success. A small faction of our community opposes the access to and inclusion of this Pride event on your rental docket. Arizona law and city code do not support the opposition's discriminatory stand. Thank you, Council, for upholding the law and the code. A church may denounce or even hate LGBTQ individuals and families based on religious principles. But as Americans with free will, we are not mandated to adhere to a single faithful interpretation. Thank you, Council, for upholding the Constitution and our freedom from religious mandate. Most recently, this small, noisy crowd, of which I'm part, speaks during your call to the public. But many come to denounce your role as elected representatives. They speak to denigrate your individual moral code, your civic leadership, and your governing principles. Common sense does not support relenting to threats and intimidation. A vast, silent majority sits at home, quietly trusting this council to act wisely in the best interests of the community. And so you have. On Saturday, this sold-out special feature will fill the Cottonwood Clubhouse with love and laughter and kindness. Thank you for making that possible. Your leadership has paved the way for a growing coalition of civic-minded individuals and organizations to further vet the importance of diversity, equity, inclusion, and access at the local and the regional level. Thank you for your common sense, your decency, your resolve, your respect, and your tolerance. Much good work lies ahead as a matter of faith, family, friendship, and fairness.
Char Clark, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Catherine Delaney.
Okay, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Shaw Clark, and I'm a resident of Cottonwood. I need to preface what I have to say tonight is not directed toward any individual but the collective. I have been pondering some questions for weeks now, which you may all want to ask yourselves. Why choose Cottonwood, a small town of working-class people and retirees, of which the vast majority are conservative and religious? Also, why schedule a venue of this nature on a sacred and spiritual weekend, such as Easter? I have to wonder, is there a hidden agenda beside the obvious? Furthermore, is it about stirring up division and controversy in our town? Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. This type of venue is not, by any stretch of the imagination, family-friendly entertainment. It is not suitable for children nor teenagers. It belongs in an adult-only venue for 21 and over. It appears our elected officials have caved into this agenda. So, what is going to be allowed next? It is incredulous that we are addressing this issue for the fifth time, pardon me, which further shines a light on the moral decline of government from the top down as well as society. The lack of transparency and open discussion speaks volumes about our elected officials. The only victims here are the children. Thank you.
Catherine Delaney, you're up next. You'll be followed by Scott Murray. And folks, you're more than welcome to stand up in line if you'd like. Help. Those little seconds will add up, and we'll get out of here even a little bit quicker.
We are a Judeo-Christian nation. Our founding fathers, who gave us the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, were religious, God-fearing men. They would be horrified at the perversion of our right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness by these men with a sexual psychosis attempting to groom our children. Jews and Christians are aware of this event taking place during Passover and Holy Week. Being intentional, it is an abomination. Psalm 119 says, quote, "Blessed are they who keep his statutes and seek him with all their heart. They do nothing wrong, they walk in his ways. You have laid down precepts that are to be fully obeyed," unquote. From Luke chapter 17, verse 2, quote, "It would be better for him to be thrown into the sea with a millstone tied around his neck than for him to cause one of these little ones to sin." Do not be a party to grooming our children.
Scott Murray, you're up next. You'll be followed by Mary Murray.
Mayor and Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I'm going to share with you the condition that you are presently in from the Bible, from God's Word. Romans 1:28, since they thought it foolish to acknowledge God, he gave them over to a depraved mind to do what they ought not to be done, what ought not to be done. Romans 1:32, although they knew God's righteous decree that those who do such things deserve death, that not only continue to do these very things, but also approve of those who practice them. 1 Corinthians 6:9-20, do you not know that the wicked will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived, neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor male prostitutes, nor homosexual offenders, nor thieves, nor greedy, nor drunkards, nor slanderers, swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God. Psalm 37:12, the wicked plots against the righteous and gnashes at him with his teeth. And that's what we see this movement doing, trying to undermine our faith and our community. James 4:17 says, anyone then who knows the right thing to do, yet fails to do it, is guilty of sin. Your lack of civic leadership will endanger the children, sharing perversion that shouldn't be in front of their eyes. And you know that you are elected officials, and you won't be on the board for very long because we're going to put you out. All those that we know that are in favor of this, you're going to be gone. We will vehemently oppose you, and we will also work to get the other people voted in that do have some godly values.
Mary Murray, you're up next. You'll be followed by Shelley Candelaria.
I really wasn't going to speak, and I just want to say that I completely disagree with this event.
Shelley Candelaria, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Ruth Ann Barkey.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. Hi, council members. Again, my name is Shelley Candelaria. I was born and raised in the Verde Valley area. I'm a local nurse, business owner, and more importantly, a member of this community in which I raise my 5 children. I would like to know which parent or board member would allow children to go to an event like this. To me, this event, again, I state, fits in somewhere in between pornographic and pedophilia scene, producing further breakdown of the nuclear family and the breakdown of godly morals. This are but 2 examples of a drag show that kids are allowed to. One, showing to be 2 female minor children. One appears to be 5 to 6 years old, receiving a lap dance from an adult performer at a kid-friendly drag show. These are not only inappropriate behavior towards children, but this is sexual child abuse. According to American Psychology Association, empirical studies have indicated the impact of child abuse victims include fear, anxiety, depression, anger, hostility, aggression, betrayal, mistrust, feeling dirty, unworthy of life, suicide, leaving the child at a vulnerable state, but also with the lack of mental, emotional capabilities to process the abuse well into adulthood. What is sexual abuse of a minor? Also a crime by every standard of the American law. Child sexual abuse is a form of child abuse that includes sexual activity with a minor, any sexual activity with a minor. A child cannot consent to any form of sexual activity, period. That's the definition. What is sexual activity? LawInsider.com defines it as sexual activity or sexual conduct, meaning soliciting or engaging in any activity of any sexual nature. Can include kissing, fondling, touching of the body, sexual explicit dancing, a well-tucked-in genitalia rubbed over a child during a lap dance, or self-touching on a stage is clear sexual abuse. We are told over and over again that sexual abuse is not acceptable in any setting. We are taught that sexual abuse can come in any form, many forms, verbal, physical, visual, body language. We take tests and exams of sexual abuse in our workplaces. We have to pass those modules. This is sexual abuse. That's it. I had like much more.
Ruth Ann Barkey, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Marilyn Jones.
Mayor and council, thank you for the opportunity to address you tonight. I can't read without my glasses, okay. We appeal to this board tonight to address the issue of concern regarding our children, because the fact is that children can be influenced by evil, and they cannot discern the truth that sexual exploitations are evil. The fact that we are all born with a sin nature, and that we do, because of Adam and Eve's disobedience to God, we've been separated from him. And we follow the dictates of the flesh, which are evil. We're born with an evil desire. But we are headed for the fires of hell that we do deserve. That's what sin deserves, and that's what sin gets. Except God. He loved us so much that he wanted us back in relationships with him. And because of our destiny at birth to the fires of hell for all eternity, he paid the price. He sent his only son down to this earth to shed his blood in our place, so that we may be re-related back to him for all eternity. He provided the way by sending his son, Lord, but it's up to us to accept that truth and to receive it, to turn from our evil ways, and consider that we are here tonight at a sin issue, not against the men, but at their sin nature and what they do in their sin nature, which we used to do before we got born again and we know the living Savior. God offers us the opportunity to return to him. Everyone has the opportunity to return for forgiveness for our sin. When we confess our sin, repent of it, ask his forgiveness, and receive his mercy and grace that we don't deserve, and the salvation of our soul. That's my words. Now I want to give you God's word, his words that are speaking now, not mine. Psalm 94, verse 3 and 4 says, "How long, Lord, how long will the wicked be jubilant? They pour out arrogant words. All the evildoers are full of boasting." Verse 16, "Who will rise up for me against the wicked? Who will stand for me against evildoers?" Verse 20, "Can a corrupt throne be allied with you, a throne that brings on misery by its decrees?" Verse 22, "But the Lord has become our fortress, our God, and the rock in whom we take refuge." And it's open to all who will receive it. And this verse is the most important. It's kind of frightening, too. Somebody mentioned Sodom and Gomorrah. Well, verse 23 says, most important, he will repay them for their sins and will destroy them for their wickedness. The Lord our God will destroy them.
Ms. Barkey, your
God
time is up.
judged this issue once before, and he's going to do it again.
Marilyn Jones, you're up next. You'll be followed by Kim Trout.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. My name is Marilyn Jones. I am a wife, mother, and grandmother to 8 beautiful, precious children. My husband, children, and I moved to Cottonwood from the Phoenix area in 1986. According to RAINN, the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, every 68 seconds an American is sexually assaulted, and every 9 minutes the victim is a child. The effect of child sexual abuse is long-lasting because it affects the victim's mental health. They are more likely to have a history of drug abuse, experience PTSD as adults, and have a major depressive episode. Gail, a survivor of child sexual abuse, says, "When a child is sexually abused, there is part of their childhood that has been taken from them. To heal from this, it needs to be recognized as a loss, a kind of grieving." RAINN has found that sexual abuse survivors often self-harm, suffer panic attacks, have sexually transmitted diseases, eating and sleep disorders. They are also at risk for suicide. Everett Piper of Oklahoma Wesleyan University wrote in the Christian Post, "When the male libido is unleashed from any constraints, any biblical standard, who suffers the most first? It is the women and children." The National Center for PTSD, Post-Traumatic Syndrome, says that researchers estimate 1 out of 4 girls and 1 out of 6 boys are sexually abused before the age of 18. Any child taking an event like a drag queen show is going to be sexualized. Their childhood innocence will be compromised. They will be easier prey for a sexual predator and be taken advantage of sexually. I think we should ask why drag queens crave an audience of children. At a Texas drag queen show, the performers handed out sex toys to the children. Is this what we want your children to experience? Your inaction after overwhelming response from citizens of our town speaks volume. We may only conclude that you have abandoned reason and natural morality. Thank you.
Kim Trout, you are up next, and you're followed by Caitlin Williams.
Hello. My husband and I are business owners here in Cottonwood. We have raised 2 children to adulthood here. My concern is that family-friendly is such a subjective term. What happens if a child is traumatized because the parent's definition of family-friendly is different than the owner of a drag show company? Who then pays for the counseling? We've heard that the ACLU has been talked about. But Miss Nature has talked about bringing in the ACLU, but will the taxpayers be liable if the show shows something to a child that they can't unsee? I wonder why it's so important for the children to come to this show and who is doing this, because the people here in town seem to be against it. Christopher Hall wrote an email that said, "We need to more than ever show the council that people support this event and other events like it in the future." I was tempted to say, you know what, this is a one-time thing. I'm going to let this go, but this shows me that this is not a one-time thing. It's not the end, it's just the beginning. As taxpayers, homeowners, and voters, do we get a say in what's allowed into our community? I think something that has been spoken of in 5 meetings would be important enough to bring to a special vote. And I know that you guys can't speak to it, but I don't know if we're allowed to have special votes. That's something to consider. Thank you very much for your time and your patience.
Thank you. Caitlin Williams, you're up next. You'll be followed by Michael Nacito.
Hello, my name is Caitlin Williams, aka Katie Williams. My father was Tony Williams, my mother's Betsy Williams. My family has been an integral part of the Verde Valley for 30 years at least. I could take a lot of stances on this. There's been a lot of great biblical points made. I'm going to be taking a constitutional stance that while it might be a constitutional freedom for people to dress in drag and to get together and have a nice little event, it's not constitution. The Constitution describes as general welfare. When we put children in these types of events, you know, why can't children vote? Why can't children legally smoke cigarettes, legally drink, legally drive? You know, there's a lot of things that you have to reach quote unquote adulthood to. But why are we now saying that it's constitutionally okay to allow children to an event like this? Why can't we wait until that child is an adult and then they can decide for themselves a questionable event such as this? If you wouldn't let your child, most drag shows are held at bars, nightclubs, etc. If a child isn't legally allowed to get into that venue, why would they legally be allowed to attend this? My second point is that in Nashville, we just had a trans shooter kill multiple children. They were diagnosed with emotionally disturbed, okay? Why are we now saying that this is okay to go put these possibly mentally ill, emotionally disturbed people in front of our children? Along with the dangers of sexual abuse, why are we now saying that this is now a good idea? In the email that the organizer of the drag show wrote, he described us as the enemy. He said that word, not me. I wasn't gonna come to this meeting. I was like, kind of like Miss Trout, you know, you guys have your thing, hopefully it goes okay. But he said that I'm an enemy, and that anybody who opposes his event is an enemy. That is inciting violence and literally dividing the line of us versus them. And that is not okay. That is aggressive language, and I don't call that person my enemy. I don't call anybody on the other side of my opinion my enemy, okay? They can have different opinions. We can talk about this. We can even separate church and state, fine. But constitutionally, there's no argument to allow children to this event. Have your event for 21 and up at main stage or wherever other place you want. That's a nightclub or a bar. Everybody has a good time. Everybody can consent to that. Everybody can drive themselves. Everybody can go drink. Everybody can get a designated driver. You don't have. I am a mother to 3 daughters, okay? I have a 12-year-old, I have a 4-year-old, and I have a 2-year-old. I am the generation coming with my kids, and my kids are the next generation. I'm not going to sit by while this is going to be trending, this is going to be pressure, this is going to be a peer pressure situation where, you know, my kids' friends are going to this, so why can't I go to this? I'm not going to deal with that. This is not only a biblical issue. If you don't believe in the Bible, fine. Let's talk about it with the Constitution. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. Nacito, you're up next. You'll be followed by Tammy Yoakum.
Good evening, council, Mr. Mayor, staff. So many good things are said already. All I can touch on is a couple things that strike me the most. One of them is the vagueness of the show itself. People have commented in meetings past about a Mrs. Doubtfire movie. But it's copyrighted, it starts when it starts, it ends when it starts, and it ends when it ends. The Academy of Movies and Pictures grades it, and it never changes. If I want my kids to see it, they see it. If I don't want my kids to see it, they don't see it. In my teens, here's a story. In my teens, I went to a Who concert at the Santa Barbara Earl Warren Showgrounds. There was hippies there and the whole thing. And we went and saw the Who amongst a bunch of other people. Spent $30, $40, but back in the 70s, that was a lot of money. Had to drive an hour and a half to get there. Roger Daltrey was destroyed. Peter Townsend couldn't stand up, but that was a live show. If I'd watched a show of their concerts where they edit it and clip it and what have you, they could make it beautiful. And that show on a video of that show would be over and over again the same thing. But because it was live, the promoter couldn't control the guys on stage. Mr. Hall says that the entertainers sign agreements saying they'll keep their show family-friendly. But there's no guarantee. If one of those guys goes off the deep end, you're screwed. If I go to apply at the school district here to drive a school bus, I'm vetted. I am checked out. They run me through every CLETS system there is. The guys that are doing this, men that dress in women's clothing and prance around on stage, they go by the name Ecstasy. They go by the name of Carmel Lata or whatever it is. You don't know the real people's names. Your chief of police should have run these people to make sure they're not criminals. Have they been guilty of pedophilia somewhere else? You don't know this. You're not requiring it. Mr. Hall doesn't require it. How do we trust somebody that doesn't do the things that we need to have done to make sure that something he says is going to be family-friendly, family-friendly? That's why we oppose this. It's not about LGBTQ. I don't care what people do behind closed doors. It's about children and keeping children innocent and children. All of them. I've got grandkids that are 7 and 8 years old, but there's kids in my neighborhood that I don't want to have them seeing this. Thank you.
Tammy Yoakum, you're up next, and you're followed by Kelly Dallas.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the decision that you made to not grant the alcohol permit for this event. Tonight, I'm asking you to take another stand for the vulnerable of our community, the children. Each of us has placed you in this position if we voted for you. You are sitting here tonight because you have made an oath to secure the blessings of liberty, to yourselves, to ourselves, and to our posterity, to ensure justice and domestic tranquility in our community. Each of you has volunteered to be in this position. Now I'm asking you to use your position to protect, to preserve our children in our community. Some may argue that a person has the freedom to do whatever he wants to do, to perform or to attend any event. It is arguable that a drag event may cross the line of what has been for multiple centuries deemed acceptable and moral. And to invite children to such a questionable event puts them in a vulnerable position. As Katie Williams stated well in our Constitution, John Adams famously said, "Our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. It is wholly inadequate for the government of any other." Every single one of our founding fathers agreed with this principle. For more than 200 years, our country has enjoyed manifold freedoms, the blessings of liberty and freedom. Our country has given us so many blessings of freedom and liberty that we take it for granted. Some believe that they are owed freedom. They are owed the freedom to do whatever pleases them at any time and for any reason, regardless about the harm that it could cause someone else. The inescapable truth is that faith and personal governments are the very foundation of the freedoms that we all enjoy. Without faith and morality, and without the laws of nature and nature's God, we are in danger of losing the freedoms that we have. I'm asking you tonight, as our elected officials, to not allow children to attend this event. It is your responsibility. I'm also requesting that you put this issue on the City Council agenda and that an ordinance be passed to keep this from happening in the future. Thank you for your time.
Kelly Dallas, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Georgette Hine. Kelly Dallas, are you with us? So, just so everyone knows, we're about a third of the way through the call to the public forums. That's America. So if we get Georgette Hine up here, that'd be great. And then you'll be followed by Denise Vertriest, I believe.
Vertriest.
And if we could ask you to speak in the mic, that would be great. Thank you very much.
Thank you for allowing this. I don't have much to say except that I know God is very displeased with what's going on. Never in a million years did I dream what is going on, what they're doing to these beautiful children. Many years ago, someone that I know very dearly was exposed. And once you're exposed, that stays in the brain forever. It can't be erased. So I implore you, please don't let this happen. Your children, your grandchildren, our hope is for a future that doesn't include what they're trying to do.
Denise Vertriest, you're up next, and you're followed by Sarah Payne. Evening.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I totally oppose this event. Our children are very impressionable and very vulnerable. We do not need this to include our children. I work at the high school. I see what goes on. I see how they're, with everything that's going on with the community. We're not against them. I have the Lord tells us to love everyone. I have nothing. I just don't like what they're pushing on our children. They see this at such a young age. They just remember that. It doesn't leave them. And some of the things that go on at these shows, it's just appalling. And I have 10 grandchildren, and I do not want them to ever see anything like this. Please, council members, please make it that no children are allowed at this event. But I do want to thank you for not allowing liquor at this event. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Sarah Payne, I hope I'm getting your name right. You're up next, and you're followed by Christopher Hall.
Sorry. Okay. Hi, my name is Sarai Payne. Thank you for making time to hear us, to be here for us all. There are many events for families to be able to enjoy together in Cottonwood. Many of the events, if not all events, that go through the proper channels are not protested or rallied against. Examples: during Thunder Valley Rally, which is a family-friendly event, there is alcohol, lewd behavior, foul language in many public and private establishments around town. Mingus Union High School has put on a theatrical production including drag and burlesque parts, another family-friendly event. These events are open to the public and include everyone who might be interested. Why are these events allowed, you may ask? We are all part of a growing neighborly community. We all want what is good for our families. Every day we wave to our neighbor, we watch out for each other's children, we pass each other every day not knowing everything about each other. We do what is right and good. We are all here for the same thing, our community. We do not destroy each other and then shout it from the rooftops. You pray in the secret place with your higher power about everything you see and hear. We all want somewhere to go with our families to have a good time, however that may be. My children have turned to me during this current challenge, asking me, what are you going to do to help? I ask God every day to help those around me to be healthy for my children. Our children have been wanting to go to an event just like the Cottonwood Drag Show, part of the Arizona Pride Tour to 2023. They know that they will be able to enjoy themselves and have community. Since finding out about the drag shows at main stage being 21 and up, they have expressed a disappointment and have wished that there was a drag show that they could go to here in our area. The day I found out about the event, our family bought tickets so that we can take our children to the event that they want to go to. There are many different groups that you can be a part of. I would love to have more LGBTQ+ accepting events here where we live so that I can go out and have a good time with my family at whichever events we choose to go to. Thank you.
Christopher Hall, you're up next. You'll be followed by Molly Heckman.
Hello, Mayor, City Council. I know you all know me, but I will introduce myself for those in the room who may not know who I am. My name is Christopher Hall, and I am the Executive Director of Miss Nature LLC, which is the organization putting together the 2023 Arizona Pride Tour, which your beautiful city has graciously welcomed with a sold-out attendance for this event. I know you have been sitting in several meetings regarding this event for the past few months, and for that, I personally thank you. During these months, I too have been busy and meeting many of the local LGBTQ+ individuals who are a part of this community. I have spoken to many parents who plan to attend and bring their children. I have also met many local business owners in support of this event. I have met many public officials who work, live, and worship in this community, some of which have LGBTQ plus children themselves. While I myself may not be a resident of this community, I could not in good faith ask a community to show up here tonight and have their voices be heard without doing the same, so here I am. I am here in solidarity as this is not a Cottonwood issue, but an issue of injustice to our community as a whole. I know there are a couple of council members here this evening. It is no secret to our community the lack of support that a couple of you have towards the LGBTQ plus community. It was seen with the recent proposal of the city regarding the liquor license and who had submitted that. It was also seen in a January 30th post that actually called for members of the community to come and attend these events with the intent to have people oppose. As has been said by others on the other side, our community is also watching. But let's take a moment and focus on the positive. We have been doing these events for the past 3 years. We have an amazing experience almost everywhere we have gone. We have had pride organizations who have started because of this event. We have helped local communities double their LGBTQ plus groups. We have had locals start PFLAG groups because of these events, and we have helped people feel seen and represented in their community. We continue to provide support to these communities beside our single day event. We will now be raising also, just so you guys are aware, we will be raising money so that some of the money stays here for the local Yavapai College Pride Group. My heart hurts that those of you who have allowed fear and pressure to deter you from protecting some of your most marginalized communities. I hope if there is any takeaway from this, that you realize the hurt that you have already caused because of your decisions that you have already made. May that be something that crosses your mind at some point. I can promise you, for what it's worth, in talking to many individuals here, you have truly hurt people. Is my time already really up? 3 minutes?
It is. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Molly Heckman, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Jacqueline Leslie.
Hello, thank you for taking the time to listen to us today. I would like to take this opportunity to voice my support for the All Ages Drag Show produced by the Arizona Pride Tour. This show is an opportunity for those in and who support the LGBTQIA community to gather and enjoy a part of their culture. No one is forcing anyone to attend this show or targeting the children of this community. Any child under the age of 18 has to have a guardian with them. I can't think of a better opportunity for children to safely meet others that may have similar worldviews to them. Those who aren't in favor should not attend, but also should not be allowed to tell others how to parent their children. We live in a country that values personal freedom and responsibility above all else. This includes parenting decisions and freedom from religion. Family-friendly drag has made its appearances in our society for a very long time. Movies like Mrs. Doubtfire, She's the Man, and Peter Pan prove drag can be done in a family-friendly way. My biggest concern when it comes to the blanket statements I've heard from some in this town is that many are demonizing people who don't deserve it. The performers have no intention of harming children of this area. In fact, they want to do the exact opposite by enriching their evening with a family-friendly show to bring like-minded individuals together. There is a lot of danger in validating the opposing side's request. There is no proof that the entertainers have intention of grooming children of this town. Putting a false label on entertainers shifts attention away from other possible predators. The best way to keep the children of Cottonwood safe is to actually analyze individual people's intentions instead of falsely labeling an entire group of people as something they are not. I unfortunately was trafficked when I was 17. I was groomed and unfortunately have firsthand experience into how these monsters work. They quietly and slowly manipulate their victims to gain trust. That is not what's going to happen this weekend. To be completely honest, the only people who have added a sexual nature to this event are the ones who are opposing it. Many tonight have brought up God, and while everyone is allowed to have their beliefs, we live in a country where there is separation of church and state, and it is constitutionally protected. That includes freedom from religion. Any statement that has had a religious nature to it should have as much weight in your decision if someone were to quote the Torah, Quran, or any other religious document, which according to our Constitution is none. Thank you.
Jacqueline Leslie, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Christine Kramer.
Good evening, the mayor and council members. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My first opinion is that you've been very patient with all of us here tonight in the last four prior meetings that we've had. But I've had a lot of questions, which I know I can't ask the boards themselves, the board members, but I was always wondering, who was the person that signed this contract? Who is funding this event? Who is pushing it? Who's supporting this? I know that the community at large is not. You do have select people that were brought in the last meeting that you people had on this issue. I know you don't think because it wasn't on your agenda, that we didn't discuss it, but it has been discussed, and this is the 5th time that you're hearing from us. And the sad part is that you cannot respond to us. We do not know where the individual has landed on your opinion and how you're going to vote, but obviously this is going to come forward. And the individual that signed this up ought to be fired. This is not something that this town needs, wants, desires. Going forward, I hope this never happens again, because the children don't deserve this kind of treatment at large from this community. They are here, they are part of this community, and they need to be kept safe. What these people do, the LGBT community, it's astounding that they want their children there. Well, they ought to have a special place and a special time just for them to entertain their children with their particular brand of fun. But no one in this room that has spoken against it, and there's more that has refused to come because out of fear of retribution from you people, that they are withheld in their opinion, and that's more than half of the people in this town. Thank you.
Christine Kramer, you're up next. You're followed by Joseph Giulietti.
Evening, Town Council and Mayor. I'm Christine Kramer. I'm a 3rd generation to the Verde Valley here. Raised here, raising my family here. I am supportive of this event. I hear a lot of rhetoric back and forth. I wasn't sure what I was going to say when I was up here, but I support this event because these events that happen with drag queens and drag shows, it's full of love, fun, and it's simple. If you don't want your children exposed to it, don't bring them. I can probably guarantee that most of the people that are speaking against it have probably never even been to a drag show, and they'd see a different event if they went and tried it. That's just my opinion. However, I'm in support of this event. I support it, and I know that there's going to be future events like it. So thank you, Town Council, for doing what you do.
Joseph Giulietti, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Sharon Bonney.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. Thank you so much for your service. I've been in public service for a long time. I know it could be a thankless endeavor. And I think it's awesome that there's so many people here on both sides that care enough about the community to take part in this democratic process. I've been a teacher for over 20 years, and when I first started, I could not have foreseen the access that children have these days to adult content. And I have actually been to a couple of shows like this, and I've got no problem with a show like this going on, but I would definitely say it's not something I'd want a child to be present for. I've seen clips from the very show that we're talking about that shows a man prancing on stage in a leotard, making sexual gestures, lying down on the stage, spreading the legs in the air, and accepting dollar bills. I qualify that as adult entertainment. And this is nothing against any community. This is not a hate thing. This is an adult show and should not be permitted for children. Whether it's a man or a woman or anyone jumping up in a leotard and shaking themselves and doing gestures like that, I would object to children being permitted. So again, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for listening to me.
Sharon Bonney, you're up next. You'll be followed by Lisa Lemke.
Good evening. Good evening. My husband, Joseph Giletti, who just spoke, and I have been raising our family here for 10 years now. At the last city council meeting, it was said by the city council, quote, "This event has unfortunately drawn so much controversy around it. It is unfortunate that it has become such a hot button issue," end quote. The meetings are on YouTube, FYI. I would think the city council would be pleased to see democracy in action, to see the call to the public being used, to see the citizens of the community they serve involved in the government process. The Verde Valley public has filled this room for 5 meetings now. Opposition is not, quote, unfortunate, end quote, even when it goes against the city council members' personal opinions. Peaceful opposition is built into the democratic process. It's in the call to the public, in the right to peacefully assemble, and in the recall election. The city council also announced last meeting there would be protesting the night of the event, April 8, 7 p.m., Cottonwood Clubhouse. First Amendment to our U.S. Constitution is the right to peacefully assemble. We started tonight by standing and reciting with liberty and justice for all. What are liberty and justice for childhood? Children's rights come before adult desires. What is your ethical responsibility, City Council, to the children who use the public buildings in Cottonwood? Is your ethical responsibility, is your power over us allowing an event in a public building that creates gender confusion in children? Do you want to be a part of gender confusion in their childhood, in their time of innocence? You all had that time, that period of innocence. You weren't told to deny the science of biology if you felt like it. You weren't watching men named Ecstasy dancing for dollar bills and high heels and a leotard. I've been to drag shows. In the 90s, I met the drag performers. All very nice people. I bet the Arizona Pride Tour dancers are nice. I have no doubt they'll be nice to the children and respect their personal space. This is not about whether the drag performers are nice or not. Children weren't invited then because in the 90s, adults allowed children a childhood, a time without considering whether to gender appropriate or not. This is about allowing children a period of innocence. In conclusion, opposition is not, quote, unfortunate, end quote. A place for opposition is built into the democratic process. And children have rights. Children have the right to a period of innocence. I ask that you do not allow children at drag events. Thank you.
Lisa Lemke, you're up next, and you're going to be followed by David Gaiman.
Good evening. This is my 5th time up here. I'm not a public speaker, and frankly, I'm running out of things to say, even if I was a great orator. I don't think it would make a difference, but I'm going to be here again. I'm going to stand for what's right, and I'm going to just ask a few questions. I know you can't answer, but just think about them in your head if you would, because I've been thinking about these. I have some questions like, why have these shows not been restricted to age 21 and above? I just wonder about that. I just can't figure that out. Number 2, why is the majority of the community who opposes this event being ignored? I do appreciate the fact that I'm here. I can speak freely. I do appreciate that, but no debate, no debate. And I feel that's only a detriment and not a positive. Number 3, why should the transgender agenda be pushed on our children, on our families, on our community? I'm sorry, but the transgender agenda, I'm not calling out individuals, but it is an agenda with very evil motives behind it. My other question is what on earth constitutes a successful show of this type? I still have no idea, and I have seen videos. I have not been there in person, and I don't need to be. I resent being told I'm free not to go. Yes, I'm free. You know, I live in a free society, but how much longer before our society is no longer free at all? What's the next thing? Pedophilia, sex with animals, maybe murder. Maybe we should make that legal too. I know I sound sarcastic, but I'm really angry. I'm sorry. I oppose the exploitation, the sexualization, grooming, and targeting of children here in Cottonwood, here in Arizona, here in the whole U.S. I oppose it. Let me go on record saying again, I oppose it. I am strongly opposed to this event and the transgender agenda. Thank you very much.
David Gaiman, you're up next, and you're followed by Terry Tozier, I believe.
Yes, Mayor and council members. I spoke last time, and I have a bunch of grandchildren and a bunch of great-grandchildren. But it seems to me, after being here 4 times, that this has been decided probably a long time ago. But just a week away, you're not going to change anything. It's just going to happen. And all of us wasted our time coming here and telling you what we thought. But we are definitely opposed to this thing. And I'm not going to use religion, and I'm not going to use morality or anything. It's not good for the community. The kids, right, but it's not good for the community. Thank you.
All right, Terry Tozier, you're up next, and you're followed by B. Elaine Gaiman.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council, and everybody else in this room. Welcome here. I have no axe to grind. I have grandchildren. I've raised 3 sets of children, and they're all making their own minds. They're all making their own living, and they're doing the things they've wanted to do. I've taught them so. Two of the children from one of the marriages that I've been involved with had a great gay dad, and he had his affairs going for 21 years without the wife even knowing about it, okay? And the exposure these kids had was horrific. They are now on their own, making their own decisions. I'm asking you, the people that represent us, please do not take our childhoods growing up away from them. Let them grow up, let them learn what's right and wrong, and let them make the decisions of what they want to do for their life. Thank you very much, and thanks for your time.
B. Elaine Gaiman, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Joel Hassel.
Okay, we've been in Arizona since the 70s. I taught computers at Cottonwood Elementary about over 15 years ago. At that time, we had a program that was to keep anything of a sexual nature off the computer for the children. Also, I was required to check even the historical or government places that the kids were going to for their work and their reports to make sure there was nothing on there of a sexual nature. I can't believe that we are saying it's okay for kids to go to something like this. Many people have said before that kids, and it's not just kids, even as adults, things that go into our brain are there forever. Things that happened in my childhood are still there, and I still have to deal with them every once in a while because they pop up. All these things are going to be there. I've also currently am an English as a second language teacher for adults. And some of the horrific things I've heard over the 19 years that I've given my time free of charge to help them, I just can't imagine how any adult could allow this to happen to children. My students have told me things you don't want to hear. That's all I have to say.
W. Joel Hasslew? Okay, great. and then you'll be followed by Randy Burdette.
Thank you very much for having this discussion. Everybody has been wonderful. They haven't yelled and screamed and called names. I think everybody here has learned something. I've learned something. My personal beliefs is that if you can drive a car, get married, write out a will, do the things that that regular people have to do to be in a society that has rules. And I believe that children should be children until they are legally allowed to do some of the things that I just said that adults get to do, like drinking and doing things like that. But the discussions were really wonderful. I think most people learned something here. I did. You can't. I'm in favor of shows that are, if they're adult content, adults go. If they're children's content, children can go. But there should be some intersection where people can't do anything they want to do. Thank you very much.
Randy Burdette, you are up next, and you'll be followed by Lorna Jackson.
All right. Thank you to the City Council for allowing us all to speak here today again. Here is a quote that goes straight to the point from Trixie Mattel, a well-known drag queen. Quote, "Today, drag can involve dressing up, wearing crazy makeup, gender crossing, or having a persona or fictional character, but it'll always have its roots in queer culture," unquote. Planned Parenthood's definition of queer is, quote, "a word that describes sexual and gender identities other than straight and cisgender," unquote. Do children really have sexual identities when they are very young? Even when they are 15 or so, is it really appropriate for children to be involved in events with adult entertainment whose roots are based on sexual preferences and sexual identities? Especially when sexualized dances are taking place, such as the spread eagle, where one lays on their back and spreads their legs as far as they can so as to mimic the sex position, which is not art meant for kids. As Christopher J. Hall demonstrated at the Lake Havasu All Ages Tour last February on video with children present and shown when he was in drag. Is that really appropriate for kids? There are people who claim this all ages drag show is about supporting trans and gay rights, the First Amendment, equity, which is equality of outcome, and is a loaded word. Ideological views on both sides, but including minors/children in clearly adult shows has nothing to do with any of that. They also say that this isn't political, yet the Verde Valley Democrats are sponsoring/supporting this event. What we oppose as a majority has nothing to do with hate or bigotry and all sorts of accusations, no matter what anyone says, despite the sharp words sometimes used. Some also say parents bringing their kids to these events makes it okay, but I don't understand how. Would it be okay if parents bring their kids to strip shows even if they have no nudity? All most of us are asking for is to have an age restriction. I and most people do not mind drag shows as long as adult entertainment does not include minors or children. When it comes to adult entertainment in city-run buildings, such as the clubhouse, especially where a building was since the beginning traditionally used for family and community events, the City Council and the Cottonwood community will have to decide on that one. Something like this would be a first for Cottonwood, if not the entire nation or state or nation. Ask yourselves whether or not it is worth throwing away Cottonwood's family-friendly perception that people have of it. In closing, I implore the City Council to add this issue of drag shows, including children/minors, to the agenda, since it apparently isn't on it like it was supposed to be. Hopefully, we can all have a civil discussion on this together. Thank you.
Lorna Jackson, you're up next. You're followed by Dan Good.
Good evening. I had no intention of speaking tonight. I just came to show support for the people that are against this. This is an abomination. It's depravity at its highest, and it is spreading across our nation. Children are being groomed in schools. They are secretly being told that they can have transgender things done to them without their parents knowing. I just want to tell you that it is a fearful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. You do not want to be one of those people, because it will. You will stand before the living God.
Dan Good, you're up next. You're followed by Tammy Reborg.
Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Vice Mayor, City Council, and employees. My name is Dan Good, and I live in Clarkdale, Arizona. I ask you why, in this United States of America, is there a constant barrage by the transvestites to influence young children? Why were flyers for this Trans Across America event handed out at schools in the Verde Valley? Is this event for those who enjoy the transvestite lifestyle? Or is it an event to desensitize, normalize, and indoctrinate children? What is on the surface and what is under the surface is two different things. It is one thing for adults to choose this lifestyle for themselves. It is quite another for adults to desire to impress children with it. Would that not be called grooming? Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. Children and young people who are groomed can be sexually abused, exploited, or trafficked. Anybody can be a groomer, no matter their age, gender, or race. Child grooming is a form of child abuse. Children who are groomed may experience psychological harm. Remember, there is a difference of what appears to be on the surface and what is under the surface. Are children and people under the age of 21 allowed in strip clubs? No, we all know that. And just why do you think that is? Thank you.
Tammy Reborg, you're up, and then you'll be followed by Carissa Autier.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. I thought a lot of different things that I would say tonight, but I finally came upon the message that I wanted to present. Well, first of all, I'm opposed to the children being encouraged to be at the drag show event. But rather than being upset about it, I'm actually very sad. I am a sinner, just like everyone in the world, and everyone in this room is a sinner. And there's many spiritually lost people, which is sad. However, it also brings up the fact that we all will have to give an account to the Lord when he comes again, and he will come. And it also kind of brought up the fact that I'm kind of glad that we are here this week, being Holy Week, because I can showcase what I believe, that Jesus Christ died for me on Good Friday. Jesus Christ rose again for me and for everyone else in the world on Easter Sunday. And so I say to everyone, And I'm not trying to be a goody two-shoes because I know I've sinned too. But I am confident that when Christ comes again, I will go to heaven with him and live eternally in heaven. And I hope that many other people who are spiritually lost can come to that faith and know that Christ is waiting for them also when they are repentant of their sin and know that he is their Savior. Thank you for your time.
Carissa Authier, sorry if I'm getting your name wrong. You'll be followed by Riva Pallone.
Hi, thank you, council members, for allowing everyone to speak. My name is Carissa Authier. I have lived in the Verde Valley for over 10 years. I own a business here. I actually hadn't planned to speak tonight, and so I have nothing prepared. I have to admit, this has been very eye-opening for me and educational. I am in support of this event. I am in support of supporting people of all kinds of backgrounds to be in this community, and I support non-judgment. And I think I support things that are legal and are non-discriminatory. And I think I am heartbroken at how much people with beliefs different than mine want to impose their beliefs on me or other people. And I think our government is here to help make sure that doesn't happen. So we're talking about human beings, and we all look different. We all express ourselves differently, and I support a place where everyone is allowed to do that. And so thank you for hearing lots of different points of view.
Riva Pallone, you're up next. You'll be followed by Debbie Westerhoff.
Okay, I'm not a public speaker. The only reason I passed my public speaking is I caught my teacher and another teacher from another school in Florida. So I got a B+. I'm a member of the LGBT community. We do all kinds of fundraising. We give scholarships to the LGBT community where parents will not support their children. We support them 100%. And every third Friday, we have a gathering, which we have 60 to 80 people in a restaurant that supports the LGBT community. Now this event, it says 18 and older, accompanied by an adult. And if there's not an adult in the room, then the child is not they're not a child, they're an adult, is not permitted in the room. But I just want to say thank you to everybody who showed up, who put their 2 cents in. I'm not a religious person, and I just want to say that I look forward to Saturday night. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Debbie Westerhoff, you are up next, and you'll be followed by John Westerhoff.
City Council and mayors, thank you for allowing the opportunity for everyone here to speak tonight. I'm a retired teacher. I taught for 30 years in California, and before that I was in law enforcement here in Coconino County and Riverside County in California. Being a teacher, you're a mandatory reporter. When you see child abuse in the classroom, you have to report it. And in 2009, we were here on vacation because we love Arizona, and we were down in Tombstone having a wonderful time. And we got back to California, and my friends came over to play apples to apples, and they were looking at us weird all night long. And I walked them out to the car, and they said, "John, did you hear what happened to your sister-in-law?" And I said, "No, I don't." And my sister-in-law was a vice principal in the same district I was. She taught there. She taught and was administrator for over 30 years. And she was arrested for being a pedophile to one of her middle school students. And I'll have to say, I was the one that turned her in. She's a great Catholic. Now that she's retired, she goes to church every day. She believes in the Word of God. And because myself and my daughter do not, she has told my daughter time and time again she's going to burn in hell. I myself was indoctrinated when I started 3 years old. My grandmother started it at Sunday school. So did my mom. They were both Sunday school teachers. They taught me a lot of great things like the Golden Rule and everything, and I believe in that, and there's great stuff in religion. But tonight, it kind of upsets me when people are sitting here calling human beings they've never met evil. A lot of my friends are gay. I love them. They're teachers. They've never groomed anybody for anything. The gentleman that came up here and spoke against this, he's right. To groom somebody, you have to have a relationship with them. Children are not going to have a relationship for 2 hours in this drag show. If you're worried about it, come. See if it is as bad as everybody's told you. This will be my first drag show. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad you support the Constitution that gives these people the right to do so. Thank you.
And you're Mr. John Westerhoff, right? Okay. And so Debbie Westerhoff, oh, okay. All right, Dustin Daniels, you're up next, and you will be followed by Julie Fernat.
Mayor, City Council, it is disappointing that the drag event is not on the agenda today after 2 months of record-breaking turnouts. And once again, we just don't understand why you guys won't talk to us. So even though we don't know what's going on behind the scenes on your end, I do want to share what's going on behind the scenes on mine as a pastor here in Cottonwood. Do you guys know that we at River Bible Church, we pray for the people of the Verde Valley every single week? We've been doing it for years. We've got dedicated time every single week on Wednesday. During the COVID crisis, we were praying for you guys by name. We were praying for the police chief, the fire chief, all the first responders. We were praying that God would give you guys the wisdom that is needed to govern the city through a national health crisis. And do you guys know that many of the same people that have signed the petitions and showed up at these meetings are the same people that stood outside in the parking lot of the Verde Valley Medical Center during COVID? And we prayed for the doctors and the nurses and the patients and the staff because the hospital administration asked us to. We prayed. So, Mr. Mayor, City Council, we're not the enemy here. We're your residents. And as you can see, we're a prayerful people. We pray. And I wanted to share a specific prayer request that I received from our website from someone that's in favor of the drag show. Now I'm going to read it verbatim. Prayer request is this: pray for me to fit this enormous drag queen cock in my ass and mouth while I jack myself off to the image of Jesus on a cross.
Mr. Daniels, please. I don't feel like that's appropriate.
Let him talk. Let him talk.
Mr. Mayor, I know it's not appropriate.
I'm disappointed you received that, but I don't think it's appropriate to relay it here.
Neither is your drag show.
Mr. Mayor, the phone number to this prayer request, 928-666-6666. We pray for people, P-R-A-Y. Others prey on people, P-R-E-Y. And others, they prey on children under the guise of a constitutional freedom. Mr. Mayor, City Council, may the Lord have mercy on the Verde Valley this Easter weekend.
City Council.
I'm sorry, just a second. We're about halfway through. okay? And just a quick reminder, please, let's hold our applause. Thumbs up, thumbs down, that's fine, but let's please hold our applause, and we'll all get through this together, okay? Go right ahead, you've got 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you for this opportunity. I had planned to come up here today and talk about the fact that when most normal people look at a drag show, they see theater. They see costumes, makeup, music, comedy, a lot of fun, a good time. There are people that look at drag shows and see sex with children. Those people should be looked at carefully because these are people that see sex with children everywhere, and someone needs to check on the children in their home. However, I'm not going to expand on that because what I really need to talk to you about today is a family of 4, 2 parents, 2 boys, 13 and 15. They live in a rural community in Indiana. The kids are in FFA. They're salt of the earth. Yesterday morning, they got up to get ready for school and work, looking forward to the end of the school year in the summer. Mom and Dad were getting ready. The 13-year-old was getting ready. The 15-year-old didn't come out of his room, so Mom sent the 13-year-old up to wake up his brother. He opened the door to find his brother's body hanging from the ceiling. Somebody hanging does not look like what you see on TV. His face was black, he had emptied his bowels, and his 13-year-old brother found him. He had come out to a friend a week before and was being ridiculed on social media. He was concerned about what would happen to his family in their church. These so-called Christians that pretend that they are concerned about children do not care about children. That 13-year-old is going to live with that for the rest of his life, and that 15-year-old is gone because these so-called Christians condemned him. That's all I'm going to say because I really can't talk about it anymore. Thank you.
All right. Lorraine Holmes, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Lama Hayburn. And folks, I know that this is a very contentious issue. It's got folks on either side very upset with one another. I would just ask that we do try to be respectful as much as possible and not just, I understand that, yeah. Okay, Ms. Holmes, go ahead.
Hello. Hi, I live in Clarkdale and have moved here recently from, well, within the last 2 years from California. And when I was up last time, I spoke about my or what happened to me in the state of Oregon, and I'm from Washington State. I did not allow my children to go to movies that I thought were inappropriate for them as they were growing up. There are things that children aren't allowed to do. They're not, there are movies in the theaters that children are not allowed to go into legally. I never went to movies growing up at all, so I don't have a lot of those experiences or memories of just good or bad. Coming here these last 4 weeks and tonight, I have been made aware of a lot of things that I was unaware of. And it made me aware of something that they announced tonight about some other kind of group or event. So I'm glad to be aware so that I can be made aware, make part of the community and make my views known. The other thing, my husband was raised Catholic and I was raised Protestant. But when you if you drive your Chevrolet into a Volkswagen dealership, that doesn't make you a Volkswagen. You can go into church for 30, 40 years, and it doesn't make you Christian. A person who follows Jesus Christ has a relationship with Jesus Christ. There have been many things done in the past in the name of God that are not things that he approves of. And so just because some person says that this is right or this is not right, doesn't make it right. And I just want people to know that when I disagree with what somebody's doing, I don't hate. And I don't, I find it very, I don't know what the word is, but every time I hear that, you know, I'm disagreeing, that I'm hating, and I'm not. Thank you.
Lama Hayburn, sorry if I'm getting your name wrong. I think I had an opportunity last time to get it right, and I got it wrong then, too. And you'll be
No
followed by
worries.
Rose Sperry.
Thank you for having us. There's been a lot of hateful things said tonight, and I just want to acknowledge that for some reason, those who believe their religion usurps my human rights think it's not insulting to be called a pedophile. Perhaps that is because there are so many pedophiles within the church that they actively protect. Or perhaps it's because their hearts are so hateful that they no longer recognize the words that come out of their mouth. So I will counter hate with something positive. There's an active LGBTQ community in the Verde Valley and in Cottonwood, and we support this Pride event and the drag show. We also have families and children that we would like to bring with us to this fun event, just like we can bring them to events at bars in Cottonwood. For lots of parents, the only way they can come out and have fun is if their children can come. So I ask you, if you can bring your child to a bar or a church, why not a drag show? Because you think my life is sinful? Well, I think your hatred is sinful. Did Jesus not say, love thy neighbor? None of what we have heard from these people who believe so much in their religion that they want to take away my rights has been loving. Where is your love for your neighbors? Fortunately, I live in the US, where religious freedom and freedom from religious oppression is written into our Constitution. It's funny how people keep forgetting that. Thank you.
Rose Sperry up next. You're going to be followed by Stephanie Earle.
Thank you. Okay, council members, each of you has taken an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I submit to you that we have domestic enemies whom you willfully have given a pass to come here and introduce our children to the most heinous crimes of the mind one can inflict on the most innocent of this nation. We have programs that teach children how to identify these sexual predators, but yet you introduce them to the same filthy programs that are supposed to protect them. And you do this in the name of entertainment, and let's not forget the almighty dollar. This is an intentional act on your part to confuse the young people to the point where they can't distinguish what proper behavior is and blurring their minds from knowing the difference between right and wrong. Just how then would you expect them to flee a predator when they don't know what one is? These people whom you are supporting to come here and entertain our children are the very domestic enemies you swore to protect us from. I challenge you to uphold your oath of office. And I submit to you that while the ACLU suggests that you be mindful of not violating the constitutional freedoms afforded you, although they fail to cite which one, I too suggest that you too be mindful of our constitutional freedom, and I do cite which one I speak of. Arizona Constitution, Article 2, Section 12 says, and I would say this to a woman that said there is no such thing. The liberty of conscience secured by the provisions of this Constitution shall not be so construed as to excuse acts of licentiousness or justify practices inconsistent with the peace and safety of the state. That is Article 2, Section 12 of the Arizona Constitution. By the way, licentiousness is a word that means throwing off of sexual restraint, lewd character, or behavior. I encourage you to uphold your oath of office and remove this disgusting activity from the shores you govern. And to you who choose to hear, let him hear Jesus say, "But if anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to stumble, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and be thrown into the city. But I will settle for each one of you who voted for this affair to be arrested and put in jail for this despicable crime against humanity."
Stephanie Earle, you're up next. You'll be followed by Andy Andrews.
Hi, thank you, Mayor and City Council members for letting us speak. I didn't know what I was going to say when I decided to speak tonight. I just know one thing, that it's easy to compromise, but it's always been harder to take the high road. Unfortunately, we are sinking to new lows that we deem as family-friendly, relinquishing our moral standards. Because of our new low standard, we have set a precedent of depravity for our children to see and participate in. These are things that are unfit for children to experience. As an adult and a parent, we have a natural and God-given something in us that wants to protect children. So like if you were standing on the side of the road, you would first, go to protect younger children, younger people than you, okay? You wouldn't just stand there and watch them just walk out into traffic, hopefully not, and get hurt. Your first reaction would be to go and protect them, and that's how I look at not letting children participate in this event. Whether they're accompanied by their parents or not, I think that it should be 21 and older. Thank you.
Andy Andrews, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Ken Brown.
As mentioned, my name is Andy Andrews. I live in Clarkdale. Thank you for listening to me just for a couple of seconds. I'm not going to belabor any kind of long speech about whether I like it or not. I'm strongly opposed to this event here, and it's because of the children. So what do you say? Let's protect our children. Adults have an opportunity to say yes or no, but our kids do not. Thank you.
Ken Brown, you're up next. You're followed by Barbara Pawlowski.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'm Ken Brown. I live in Clarkdale. And I just want to say that I oppose the drag show. And I want to say that probably each and every one of you could probably look back at your childhood and remember something where somebody said something, showed you something, or touched you where you shouldn't have been touched. And that's why we're here. That's why we've been here every Tuesday that you've had this council meeting and opened this forum. It's to protect the children. The drag shows will go on, but the children need to be protected. And the first commandment of God is that you love your God with all your heart and have no other gods before him. And I pray for you. We've prayed for each and every one of you that God will give you wisdom, and that if you don't know the Lord Jesus Christ, that you will come to know him as your personal Savior. Thank you.
Barbara Pawlowski, and you'll be followed by Jeff and Lynn Swartz.
Mayor, council members, I'm Barbara Pawlowski. I'm a retired Air Force officer. My husband and I have lived in Clarkdale for 3 years. And I must say, I did not move to rural Arizona and expect to see a drag show turn up here. We do not have the population that appreciates that kind of show, and I'm frankly mystified as to why this was done in secrecy from you all. You're not hired to do things in secrecy. You work for us, the citizens. And from what I've heard from my fellow citizens, there's been no explanation. You're all mute on the subject. So I really implore you to explain your behavior to us. This is not what a city council is hired to do. You represent the citizens, and you're just silent. I don't know what coerced you to sign that contract. You've heard from most of the people in this room. If you took a vote, you'd find most of us are against it, in this room and the 4 other meetings. So I agree with all my fellow speakers. This is not for this community, certainly not for the children, but I'd like to mention a few other points that maybe you haven't thought of. Drag shows promote sexism in that they portray women as sexually objectified caricatures. You know that. I don't have to tell you that. Drag performers frequently reduce women to hypersexualized, big-breasted, big-haired bimbos wearing garish makeup. Now, we all know most women do not look like these guys in drag. That is not a representation of women, and the women on this council know that too. You all are parents, probably. You have wives, you have husbands, you have daughters, maybe sisters. I don't think they would appreciate this either. This is not the way women should be presented. It sets us back, what, several generations. Why are we doing this in this small community? Drag show performers build their careers off of female oppression and sexual objectification. You know that too. That's not up for debate. Sexual exploitation of women by men in drag is still not okay. This is not an okay performance. Now I urge you to explain to this room, if you dare, why did you make this decision that the majority of us are so clearly against? That's not what you were hired to do. Please cancel this disgraceful performance for the good of this community. We don't want it. Thank you.
Jeff and Lynn Swartz, you're up next. You'll be followed by Frank Fuller.
I'm exhausted. It's way past my bedtime. I too have been working all day. Jeff had to go home with Olivia, so it will just be me this evening. I am in favor of the drag show. I wasn't going to speak tonight because I, also my husband, have already been more than clear of our feelings in a personal letter to Mayor Alinsky. Hopefully having me up here will be refreshing. Listening to all this is exhausting. We are both business owners here in the Verde Valley and have a daughter at Mountain View Prep. I implore you to take a step back in your thought processes and not allow sensationalism, fear, and narrow-minded thinking to persuade your decisions. We are calling on you as leaders to truly lead the masses into peace. Religious division has no place in our community. I, for one, can attest that there is a very large majority of this town in support of acceptance of the drag show. My friends and associates are all intelligent, professional, and have other meetings this evening. And they are silent tonight only because they have other commitments professionally. And the ones that didn't come will be getting an earful. Our forefathers were wise in insisting on a separation of church and state. You are called as politicians to uphold the law and to be able to keep the separation intact. Intelligence must prevail in order for democracy to succeed. I keep hearing that this is about the kids. The bottom line is this show is getting sensationalized and demonized by misinformation. And the only straw left to grasp is the fact that the kids are allowed to attend. And this is what the religious fanatics and prejudiced individuals are holding on to. Our children attend events with alcohol, and their parents drive home after drinking after dinner. Why is this not being addressed? I don't see a Prohibition Act being enforced. Why? Because drinking is socially acceptable. My daughter is surrounded by free-thinking, progressive adults, and I encourage her to ask questions and not fear sexuality. As parents, we will guide her as best we can with our personal relationship with our own God. Other people do not have the right to tell me how to teach my child about sexuality. Being in a position of leadership, you need to continue to think clearly and not allow fanaticism and big imaginations to persuade you. Please consider that most everything presented tonight is religious in nature. In closing, I am sickened by the hate I've heard here this evening. As having been raised by a God-fearing Christian woman, I believe in my heart my mother would even be disappointed. This is not the God she raised me to have a relationship with. And as Gwyneth Paltrow said, I wish you well.
Frank Fuller, you're up next. You're going to be followed by Lee Elder Jr.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. I want to read something. It's called the preamble. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do and ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States. Domestic tranquility, that's calm. General welfare, it's the basic goal of the local government. Health, peace, morality, safety of its citizens. As citizens of Cottonwood, we look to you for our protection and our guidance. You all took an oath, just like I did, to protect and defend this Constitution against all enemies, and all means all, foreign and domestic. Part of the huge responsibility is also included in this preamble. You are instructed to keep us safe. You are instructed to keep our communities peaceful. You are also instructed to uphold moral values. Since when is a drag show morally responsible? I implore you folks that if you refuse to consider anything, this drag show, anything better than a show, that our law enforcement will arrest anyone exposing their body parts, such as their breast or genitalia, which is also affiliated with these, as public indecency. Now, because you all have taken an action, I also encourage our law enforcement to arrest you guys as well. Why? Because you're accessories to the fact. You had a chance to stop this, and you didn't. Now, I also heard many reports or many references to Mrs. Doubtfire. At the end of the movie, they failed to reiterate what transpired. The kids were so distraught. The wife of this Mrs. Doubtfire, she was so distraught over what had transpired that it took her a long time to recoup and to come back to her husband. Thank you.
Lee Elder Jr., you're up next. You're followed by Chris Roach.
Sorry, long walk from the back. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Lee Elder Jr. Many of you guys have heard me speak before, so instead of giving another pointless 3-minute speech, instead I will address some of the arguments and concerns those in favor of this event have raised. First, I appreciate you guys denying the liquor license and selling of liquor at the event. You are absolutely right. You said people act in ways they shouldn't when they have been drinking. That is why we have laws against drinking and driving. However, your excuse to deny the liquor license was absolutely pitiful and disgraceful. You made it seem like those of us opposing the event would be prone to violence, which is disgusting. Let me remind you that what happened in Nashville this week was a transgender person who is prone to violence, not the Christian population. You also said that we had unfortunate opposition to this event. However, let me remind you that those of us opposing it were raising our concern for the innocent people who would be attending this drag show, a show that would make impressionable children lose their innocence. But like most people supporting this agenda, all opposition is made out to be evil. And if you do oppose, you are labeled as a bigot. This opposition is well needed as it united the citizens of Cottonwood and made them aware of the corruption and cowardice sitting in the chairs that govern the city of Cottonwood. Now, to the other concerns raised by those in favor of the event. First, concerning the using of Scripture in our defense against this show and in the defense of our own points. Stop being hypocrites. Gavin Newsom used Bible verses in his abortion campaign and plastered them all over billboards. Politicians use Bible verses all the time. Second, many of you got up in the show, in the audience, and said drag was an art form and people have been doing it for centuries. But this is simply not true. In fact, it is a myth. In the 16th century, the time of Shakespeare, women were not allowed to perform in theater, so the only other option was for a man to dress as one. This was for entertainment and comedy purposes only, though. Many also said that if you oppose drag, you must oppose Looney Tunes and Mrs. Doubtfire because they cross-dress too. However, the cross-dressing in those films was for comedic purposes only, and it had nothing to do with drag. Drag, however, features people cross-dressing in a hypersexualized form of the gender they represent, parading around in a sexualized dances. One man today shared the origins of drag, which is tied directly to queer culture, and you would do good to listen to him. One person also brought up how drinking is socially acceptable. Let me remind you all that there was a time in this nation when slavery was socially acceptable. That does not mean we support it. Thank you.
Chris Roach, you're up, and you'll be followed by William McDonald.
That is a hard act to follow for sure. I'm Chris Roach. I'm from Dewey, Arizona. I'm a member of the Arizona Proud Boys. Just to let you know, I've talked to Chris
Mr. Roach,
already.
please face us. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So here's the deal with that too. You have failed this community. You're acting like a petty tyrant. You have to face me and talk to me. You have to be respectful. You're not respectful to your constituents. These people voted for you. And you sit here, you won't give them answers? You have failed your community. So therefore, I don't address you. I address the city of Cottonwood. Your people here, I'm telling you.
Mr. Roach, please, it's just
You
to
have,
have
you
some
have
decorum.
insulted these people by not doing your job. And you're going to sit there barefaced and not do your job? These people elected you. You have failed them completely. And the Proud Boys are here, and we are everywhere, and we will be there Saturday. We love this community. We love the Constitution, and we're going to be with the Christian patriots and the people that are going to be out there praying. I've already talked to Chris. I've already discussed it. They have nothing to fear from us. We're there strictly to make sure that everybody has their First Amendment. I spent 10 years in countries with people just like you sitting behind tables telling people they couldn't around and talk to people. Tried to use petty tyrant tactics to keep something like this. It's absolutely absurd. You have failed your community. Do you realize that? By not putting this on the agenda, we've contacted all kinds of state representatives, senators, everybody. This is not ending here, okay? Thank you for waking up this community because you have woken them up. The people that are voting for this will not be back in office. I guarantee you that. You have failed your community and you failed God. Have a nice night.
William McDonald, you're up next, and you'll be followed by Joshua Bartosh. William McDonald, are you with us? Joshua Bartosh, you with us? Lauren Burris? Lauren Burris? Alexis Lilishin? Alexis Lilishin? Robert Marlins, you here? Robert Marlins, you'll be followed by Anna A.J. Butts.
Thank you very much for giving me a moment to speak tonight. I wanted to put this whole conflict into a little bit more of an historical context. This attempt that we're seeing to normalize things that were never normal before, are not part of our tradition and have never been accepted in our history, is part of a larger movement worldwide. Back in the time of the Bolshevik Revolution, when Vladimir Lenin used force to take over Russia and inflict on the citizenry, the Soviet Union, with the murder of 30 million of their fellow citizens. He did it by force, and he did it for reasons, the subjugation of the population. Now, the Italian communist Antonio Gramsci watched this, and he said, that's what I'm going to do in Italy, starting now. So he fomented a revolution similar to Lenin's, and he failed miserably, and they threw him in jail for subversion for 20 years. From there, he wrote his prison diary, and what he said in that lengthy writing was that there's no way to overthrow a Western society that's based on the church and the family and all the traditional pillars that we're so used to. He said, the only way I could have done it was if I could have first broken those institutions. And so he continued to write about the tactics that should be used by the left in the future to break down Western societies, specifically the society of the United States. And what he did and what he instituted and implemented as tactics has been followed religiously by the worldwide left and the American communist movement that is so much a part of this endeavor to normalize things that are against our traditions. What he said was, I would have had success if I could have broken down the foundations first, if I could have broken down the police, if I could have broken down the military, if I could have broken the family, and if I could have broken the church. If I could have done that, the whole thing would have gone adrift and everybody would look up to the socialist God instead of their own God, their Christian God. So these things have been instituted through the leftist movement for quite some time here in the States. Most all good communist leaders, and that's communists in the Democratic Party, by the way, have prescribed to the tenets of Antonio Gramsci. If you catch him in public and ask him, or in private, they'll tell you they know his writings well. So what they're trying to do is break the church, and one of the tenets to doing that and setting society adrift is to break down traditional moral tenets of the church. And one of them certainly, well, there are many, that their men and women were created by God and they only have two genders, and that's it. That's all that's prescribed by nature and nature's God. And also that not only there are just two genders, but that sexual behavior should not be licentious, should be between a man and a woman, and it's a private affair. But all these drag events are an attempt by the hard left. Some of them don't know they're being manipulated this way.
Your time is up.
Thank you. To break society, and we reject these attempts, and we ask that you pull the license
your time is up, sir.
for this licentious activity. Thank you.
Anna Butts, you're up next. You'll be followed by Ken Miller. Anna Butts, you with us? Ken Miller, are you here? Ken Miller, you'll be followed by Maya Sierras.
I'm Ken Miller from Rimrock. I've been here for all but one of these meetings, so thank you. What I'm hearing in the media is that there's a small opposition group to this drag show. Tonight, there seems to be a more balanced representation, pro and con, than I've heard in the other 4 meetings I've attended. But tonight I kept score, and it's running 3-1 at the lowest separation, 4-1 at different times. And my phone died, so I don't know the final tally. But I recommend that the council exercise their authority to re-examine the actions of staff and even the normal policy, which I understand is how this event wound up on the calendar. Separating it from children just seems a no-brainer. Eliminating the liquor license for it was a good decision. But I encourage you guys to exercise the authorities you have, especially if it takes an emergency meeting or whatever. But revisit this before it's too late. Thank you.
Maya Sierras, are you with us this evening? You'll be followed by Kate Sierras.
Hello, council members. My name is Maya. I am 14 years old. I live in Cottonwood. I like girls, I always have, so I guess that makes me gay. Until last year, when I attended the CCS, also Cottonwood Community School, I didn't know that people cared about these things. When I went to CCS, I was verbally, physically, and even sexually assaulted by other students on a regular daily basis for simply being myself. I was baptized for being the sin of a faggot. I was groped all over my body by boys who told me that they could make me straight. Kids threw food at my hair during class. I was thrown against a building and on the ground more times than I can count. There will always be adults watching. There were always adults watching. Never once did a single adult intervene. I always thought being a Christian was a loving thing. I came home with bruises and scratches. I made numerous complaints, and so did my parents. My mom even filed a police report. Not once did an adult intervene. I had to leave that school for my safety, and so did my brother, and now it's happening again. Last week, 2 7th graders at my new school, whose parents are here today to stop a drag show, have been harassing my brother, who is a 1st grader. They call him a fag and every other slur they can think of. That's why I am here today. I don't want kids to go through what I did. The people in this room who are afraid of drag shows are bullies and cowards that make their kids do the dirty work. Maybe if they had some exposure to diversity, they would not be so hateful and afraid. Maybe they might even have fun. There are lots of kids like me who are growing up in a town that thinks they hate them, all because of a small minority. A lot of these kids won't make it to graduation. 1 out of every 10 kids grow up to be gay, no matter how much you shame them. You won't even know they're gay until they disown you or commit suicide. Events like this can change those outcomes. These people don't want anyone who isn't just like them to feel safe here. And now they're bullying the council too. Everyone deserves to feel safe here. I'm a child. I don't feel safe in this town because of these people. But I'm not because of the drag show. And there were more events. And if there was more events that were positive like this, maybe people would see that we are all just people no matter what we're wearing, and maybe that's what they're afraid of. If Jesus hates drag so much, then why was he wearing a dress? Thank you.
All right. Kate Sierras, you're up next.
Hi, guys.
You'll be followed by Danielle Glick.
90% of LGBT students hear anti-LGBT comments in school. On average, an LGBT high school student will hear 26 anti-LGBT slurs per day, 1/3 of which come from a staff member. 84% of LGBT youth report verbal harassment at school because of their gender identity and/or sexual orientation. 74% of transgender youth report sexual harassment at school based on their gender identity and expression. 25% of LGBT students have been physically hurt by another student because of their sexual orientation. 55% of transgender youth report physical attacks based on their gender identity and/or expression. 28% of LGBT youth drop out of school due to this harassment. The consequences of physical and verbal abuse directed towards LGBT students include truancy, dropping out of school, poor grades, and having to repeat a grade. Greater than 50% of transgender youth attempt suicide. Roughly 34% of LGBT youth report suffering physical violence from their parents as a result of their sexual orientation and/or gender identity. Up to 46% of LGBT youth of color experience physical violence related to their sexual orientation. 26% of LGBT youth are forced to leave home because of conflicts with family over sexual orientation and/or gender identity. More than one anti-transgender murder per month is reported in the USA, and in the last 10 years, 51 youth have been murdered in confirmed cases of anti-transgender attacks. The actual number is likely much higher. That's all.
Danielle Glick, you're up next. And then you'll be followed by Michelle Carpany. Danielle, are you with us? No. Michelle, Rachel Carpany. Okay. Dan Argenio. Dan Argenio, okay, and you'll be followed by Kathy Ransom.
Mayor and City Council members, thank you for the opportunity. My name is Dan Argenio. I've lived in the Verde Valley for 23 years. Myself, my wife, and our 3 children, 2 of school age, call Cottonwood our home. During that time span, I've worked as a first responder here in Cottonwood for 16 years in our community. I am beside myself that I'm even up here speaking about this right now. It's unacceptable for this to even be an issue that wasn't brought on the agenda. The outrage from this drag show was never hate towards the LGBTQ community, but rather the involvement of children. The message by now should be clear, but I feel it is not. Hence the refusal to be put on the agenda. Since the drag show was announced, these city council meetings have seen unprecedented numbers in attendance. The majority in opposition. And yet that still doesn't seem to matter. It's like no one cares. You guys were voted here by us. I'm actually embarrassed to be a part of this community and be a taxpayer in this community, given our current circumstance on this issue. As fathers and mothers, and you as city leaders, it's our responsibility to protect the innocence of children. I question the motives for this not being put on the agenda, as well as there not being age restrictions on this event. It's immoral and it's shameful. I hope our community rises up in peaceful protest and opposition. I think that message needs to be sent to everyone, yourselves included. Make no mistake, you will be judged not only by God, but by the community in the upcoming election. Thank you.
Kathy Ransom, you're up next. You'll be followed by Amber Brandt.
Thank you for your patience, Council. The most sacred of the duties of a government is to do equal and impartial justice to all its citizens. That's from Thomas Jefferson. I would like to thank the Council for carrying out your duty as described by Jefferson. I appreciate that if you have not been unduly swayed by the vitriol here and at the previous City Council meetings. There has been a lot of disinformation here tonight, so that I hope if any of you have any concerns about the behavior of drag queens, you'll do your own research as to who is most likely to sexually abuse children. Many of the people here probably support parental choice when it comes to using state tax dollars to send children to church-based schools. But they don't want parents to have all the choices. That would be hypocrisy. I'm glad to know that the show is sold out. It proves that Cottonwood supports this show and will continue to support the LGBTQ community. And we appreciate the Council's continued support of the democratic process and sitting through these many hours of these public statements. And we appreciate that you are treating all citizens equally.
Amber Brandt, you're up next. You'll be followed by Stan Merrill.
Excuse me, thank you again. The last time I checked, placing people into a general group and making assumptions on that group of people is called discrimination. Just because of the sins of a few, it should not condemn the entire group, whether it's a religious leader or whether it's a drag queen. The problem I have is that in this setting, or that this is setting the precedent of opposing other LGBTQ events in our city. We need diversity in Cottonwood. Since I took a stand at the first council meeting, I have been threatened professionally and personally. I've been accused of promoting the sexualization and grooming of children. I would like it to be very clear that I do not stand for those horrific things. If I thought that this event was going to harm children, I would not support it. As a person that has been sexually assaulted as a child by grooming, I know firsthand what that looks like. Grooming is not accomplished by an individual on a stage at an event in a few hours, especially when they have no one-on-one interaction with the adolescent. It is done over time and gaining the trust of those adolescents as well as their families. People that have been groomed by teachers, pastors, friends, family members, and sometimes even parents and step-parents themselves. Typically, adults and the child have a rapport with the offender, and it is someone that the family actually trusts. I am not standing up for the sexualization and grooming of children. I'm standing up for equality against the discrimination that I am witnessing in my city. I truly believe that this event is coming to our city has started up some wonderful things. I definitely see that there are going to be more education that needs to be done in our community about the LGBT community and the resources that need to be established here in Cottonwood. There are currently some of these things being done now, and I thank Chris and his team for bringing these resources to our community. And I know that they will stay and continue to stay longer after he leaves our area. I know that there is a divide in this group and in this room, but I am 100% wholeheartedly believe that no one in this room wants any harm to come to children. So at least we can agree on that, and we are just disagreeing on what is harmful. Thank you.
Stan Merrill, you're up next. You'll be followed by Keith Merrill.
Good evening. Mayor and City Council members, that I should have to come on down here and lecture you adults as to the danger this behavior presents to our youth, it makes me wonder about your own wisdom and motivations. I just don't understand it. This is an obvious case of child endangerment, and it's illegal. Arizona state law 13-3623, A.R.S. 13-3623, says under the heading of child or vulnerable adult abuse is when you are placed in a situation where emotional abuse will occur. And I think that's absolutely what's going to happen on Saturday at this show. I believe in agency, and what adults do is their own responsibility in business. Children are different, though. We have to protect them. Oh, I did a little research, too, and I looked up a song from the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus, and they talk about the gay agenda. Their song says, "We will convert your children. It happens bit by bit." That's what this is about. And Christopher Hall wants to come to our community and stir up contention in the hearts of men. We all know who likes contention. Gender confusion? Serving alcohol? I honestly, I wonder what you're thinking. This is if you just take a wholly pragmatic view of this, it's a safety hazard. There's a lot of contention around this issue. It's just not worth it. They have an agenda. There's a goal here. Thank you.
Keith Morrill, you're up next. You'll be followed by Larry Lord.
Hi, my name is Keith Merrill. First off, the need for any opposition to this event, I believe, is absolutely ridiculous. You know, I mean, that we have to come up here and express our opposition to it is insane. This is malfeasance, and I believe that you guys are failing to represent your constituents, and you've been elected by the people that you're going to serve as public servants. I mean, you know, I don't know what else to say other than call it a clown world. You know, I feel, you know, men dressing as women and, you know, vice versa. I feel like I need a red nose and the wig and everything. It's ridiculous. It's grooming, and, you know, there's gender confusion going on with all this. We all know that children are very impressionable, you know, at a young age, and that's why, you know, you can't do certain things when you're 18 or until you're 21 and so on. As my dad said, A.R.S. 13-3623 is the Arizona Revised Statute on Child Endangerment, and I'd like to read subsection B of that. It says, under circumstances other than those likely to produce death or serious physical injury to a child or vulnerable adult, any person who causes a child or vulnerable adult to suffer physical injury or abuse having the care or custody of a child or vulnerable adult who causes or permits the person or health of the child or vulnerable adult to be injured, or who causes or permits a child or vulnerable adult to be placed in a situation where the person or health of the child or vulnerable adult is endangered, is guilty of an offense as follows. 1, if done intentionally or knowingly, which clearly this is, the offense is a Class 4 felony. So the way I see it is that anyone for this event has just as much culpability in it. Also, I think that the event is quite a bit in part to stir up contention in our community. And I'd like to read a scripture from the Book of Mormon. It's in 3 Nephi chapter 11, verse 29. For verily, verily, I say unto you, he that hath the spirit of contention is not of me, but is of the devil, who is the father of contention, and he stirreth up the hearts of men to contend with anger one with another. Drugs, alcohol, and pornography are all many kinds of trouble that our youth are going through today. And, you know, I'll leave it at that.
Larry Lord, you're up next. You'll be followed by Jim Ariola.
Hi, council members. My name is Larry Lord, and the problem I have is we nationally recognize ratings at movies. Why do we not recognize ratings at events? This should be rated R. These are drag queens, make no mistake about it. They're not just representing the LGBTQ community. They can do that at a park or a picnic. It doesn't have to be at one of these events. Thank you.
Jim Ariola, you're up next. Will be followed by David Hedges.
Hi, my name is James Ariola. I've heard a lot of talk tonight about child abuse and pedophilia and grooming. I've heard enough Bible verses that I think I'm allowed to skip church this Sunday. I think there's some misunderstanding and preconceived notions about this event. You know, I know everyone in this room can agree, no one wants children abused. No one wants children sexualized. I don't think there's any disagreement here on that. And I see drag performances or men dressing as women being said to be equivalent to pedophilia and grooming. This is not true. It's a misunderstanding. So a side note on grooming. I was groomed throughout my childhood to be a heterosexual male. It didn't work. So, you know, in conclusion, I just ask that everyone try to be a little more accepting and tolerant, because we all got to live together regardless. So, thank you.
David Hedges, you're up next. You're followed by Gavin Brock.
Hi, my name is David Hedges, and I came a couple weeks ago to this town, and from Texas. And I was thinking, holy Toledo, this is a nice town. And I went to the recreation center. I've been hanging out, and I was driving around, and I saw lots of churches, you know, and I thought, man, I think I'm gonna move here. And then I found out that I went, and they were thinking about having alcohol at a drag show. And I thought, holy Toledo, I don't want to move here. But I'm still thinking about moving here, but thankfully, you shot down the alcohol thing. We just need you to shoot. You know, we just need you people to make it adults only. No children. No children at all. Thank you so much.
Gavin Brock, you're up next.
He needs to be let in.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yeah, Gavin Brock, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Gavin Brock. This is my mom, Shelly Candelaria. Sorry, I just ran. Can I get a little bit of context? I'm speaking to you as someone who is a part of this community. I am a gay man, and you know, it really burdens me to see, you know, these parents taking their children to events like this. Personally, I love drag shows, but I wouldn't let my kid go to one if I had a kid. They're malleable young minds, and it's just not right to make an impression upon these young minds that, you know, they're something different when really they're learning to grow themselves and who they are. Just let them be. Like, how do I, as an example, can you unlock that for me?
Sorry.
I have a few references here. Proverbs 24:12, don't excuse yourself by saying, look, we didn't know. For God understands all hearts, and he sees you. He who guards your soul knows you knew. He will repay all people as their actions deserve. What?
Keep the kids out.
I mean, as many of these events I've read about and seen videos of are very graphic and sexual in presentation. I don't believe children should be allowed at these events. I've seen the organizers of these events interviewed after, and they completely deny any sexual content in acts like these that happen in small towns like these and go unnoticed. And it's not okay. I've seen videos of drag queens giving kids lap dances, and it's not, it's not for children, and it should remain out of, out of access for children or their parents with children to bring them to events like this.
Gavin Brock, I'm
Thank
sorry,
you
your
for
time's up. Thank you.
listening. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, with that, I will close the floor to the public. We've received all the comments. Thank you, folks. And are the stores still open this way? Folks to exit, or do they have to go out that way? Yes, if you want to leave now, you can go out that way. Otherwise, you're welcome to stick around as we get to our business. Council, do you, yeah, okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break. 5-minute break. Just hand it up here and they'll pass it around. Thank you. All right, great. Okay, next up is call to the public. Just kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Everybody relax. Everybody relax. Everybody just relax. All right, approval of minutes of the special meeting of March 6, 2027 of 2023 and the regular meeting of March 21st, 2023. I'll motion to approve those minutes.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Karat seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, they're approved. Unfinished business, just one item this evening. It's ordinance number 732, amending the zoning map for 2 parcels of land, assessor parcel numbers 406-42-169 and 406-42-170A, located at 185 and 195 South 7th Street, to change the zoning classification from R2, single-family residential, multifamily, to R3, multiple family residential. This is the second final reading. Anything new to discuss on this? I know we discussed it before.
Mayor, Council, we don't have anything to add to this particular item.
Okay. Anyone from the public? I know we've got the developer here, but I don't think it's necessary. I'm ready for a vote, if you are.
I move to approve ordinance number 732.
Second.
Okay, Councilmember Nair made the motion, Councilmember Karat seconded it. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Duvernay?
Yes.
Councilmember Karat?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weldon?
Yes.
And Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, please read ordinance number 732 by title only.
Ordinance number 732, an ordinance of the Mayor and City Council of the City of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning map of the City of Cottonwood, Arizona for parcels of land, APNs 406-42-169 and 406-42-170A, so as to change certain district boundaries and classifications thereof from the present zoning designation of R2, single-family multifamily, to R3, multifamily residential.
Okay, thank you. Okay, this is the consent agenda is up next. The following items are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the council and will be approved by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests. We have 4 items this evening. I'll read them out for the council and public. First up is authorization to submit a grant application to the Federal Aviation Administration for fiscal year 2022 bipartisan infrastructure legislation grant funding to be used for eligible projects at the Cottonwood Municipal Airport. Item 2, assignment of lease for Hangar G at the Cottonwood Municipal Airport. Item 3, purchase of booster pack pumps for wells 3-1 and 5-1. And item 4 is professional services agreement with R.H. Borden Company for a manhole virtualization modeling project. Is there an item that a council member or citizen would like to have pulled? All right, I'll motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion, Councilmember Nair seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, that's approved. New business, 2 items this evening. First up is ordinance number 730, amending sections 201, 402, 404, 418, and 419 of the city's zoning ordinance, and this is just the first reading.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Tina Hayden for Community Development. Staff has zoning ordinance amendment proposals for 6 separate sections. They can be broken down into 4 different topics. So I only have 4 content slides for you guys. The first one is regarding Article 2, Section 201 for definitions, Section 418 for C1 light commercial, and Section 419 for C2 heavy commercial. This is regarding the drive-in, drive-through element. Currently, drive-throughs are not permitted in the city of Cottonwood. The current definition allows for the drive-in restaurants, but not a drive-through specifically. Our new definition will establish a drive-in, drive-through element, an element of an establishment which allows for providing goods or services to patrons within motor vehicles. We also had to amend Section 418 and 419 to allow for Section 418 to permit by conditional use permit the drive-through, and then for Section 419 to permit by right the drive-through, and we have established criteria to reduce or to minimize noise impacts and to provide additional screening to mitigate sound and headlight glare most specifically when adjacent to residential uses. So that's the first one. The second topic is regarding the annexation process. We have reworded this text amendment in accordance with the Arizona annexation laws, and that City Council will adopt zoning districts that permit densities and uses no greater than the densities and uses that were permitted in the county. The third topic is regarding heights of towers and flags. Currently, the zoning ordinance states that no tower should be placed adjacent to a property line with regarding the height of the tower. So if the tower was 50 feet, it could not be within 50 feet of any property lines. We have created a provision for towers that have structural engineering that would reduce their fall radius. And then we've set criteria for the structural engineering plans that we would require to be reviewed and approved by our building official and city engineer. The 3 requirements for the structural engineering plans include an Arizona technical registrant seal, calculations based on local design criteria, and a site plan showing approximate area of collapse if the structure were to fall. And the last item is regarding show animals permitting. This section currently is one large paragraph. It's very confusing and open to interpretation. The proposed amendment seeks to clarify that show animal permitting is required for all residential zones. It clarifies the criteria for the keeping of animals, and then it also clarifies the types and quantities of animals that are allowed within certain residential zoning districts. And that concludes my presentation. I am ready for any questions that you may have.
Okay, great. Any questions for Ms. Hayden from council? Okay. Just a general question, are there developments that are predicated some of these changes, or is this just part of your overall combing through of the city code?
There is one development that did submit for design review for a location of a wireless communications tower. That is what prompted us to look into creating a provision with the structural engineering plans and reduced fall radius.
Okay. All right, well, everything looks pretty cut and dry to me.
I was going to say one thing. Go back a slide.
Oh.
On the one that had the animals per square footage.
Yes.
With goats and most other livestock, if you only have one, they tend to go nuts and make a lot of noise. If you have 2, they tend to be a lot better and quieter. So maybe look at that and adjust that a little bit depending on size. But I know when I had goats, if it was just one of them, my neighbors hated me. If you have them in a small herd, or even if you just have a buddy and just have 2 of them, it tends to be a lot better overall for everybody.
Councilmember Karat, I would like to point out for category B goats, it is 1 head per permitted project. If there were multiple participants, each with their own permit, we would not prevent them from having multiple animals on site. We also do have criteria if there is a nuisance concern that would allow code enforcement to intervene if needed. As far as permitting additional animals, that is something we could look at with the project. Staff's goal was to break down what is currently written and just make it easier to understand and less open for interpretation.
What's the duration generally for folks that have show animals?
Currently in the zoning ordinance, it is 6 months. It can be extended if the show animal was a prize winning and was going to go on to the next stage of the event affairs. We did not include that in this proposed amendment change.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I guess it's something we'll keep an eye on. If neighbors complain a lot, then we can try to tweak the code if necessary.
Yeah, just knowing it was just one, it was interesting, but as long as they have a buddy, they seem to be much better.
Okay.
Just because they're herd animals.
Okay. All right. Is there any other discussion from council on this ordinance? Okay. Well, it's the first reading, so we'll have you bring it back, and at our next regular meeting, we'll take a vote on it. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have you read ordinance number 730 by title only, please.
Ordinance number 730, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the city of Cottonwood, Yavapai County, Arizona, amending the zoning ordinance by amending sections 201, 402, 404, 418, and 419 regarding drive-through facilities, initial zoning on annexation, height regulations, and show animals.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next and last under new business is discussion, consideration, and possible legal action to authorize the sale of a vacant .08 acre parcel of land located at 906 North 2nd Street. Evening.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm Tricia Lewis, and I am Tourism Economic Development Director, and what a night. So I am here tonight asking for council direction, as you probably saw in your packet, on the city-owned parcel at 906 North 2nd Street in Old Town. It's .08 acres, and in the fall of last year, we had a discussion looking at city-owned properties to see if they were useful or part of the strategic plan. And it was discussed and approved, and I know it became an item before you all to go ahead and put it on the market for movement for sale. So the background on the property is we obtained an appraisal on the property in October, and it was appraised at $40,000. Then we were, procurement office did a request for proposals. That was issued on December 29th. And then the response, we had 2 submittals that were submitted on time at the February 1st deadline. And I'll go over both of those, and I do believe both the applicants are here. So the first one was from Steve and Denise Schley. They offered $41,100 for the parcel, and they have a proposed use for construction of either a 2-story or 1-story bungalow, mixed use or residential. And they've also indicated that they are permitted to, would operate this as a short-term rental. The other proposal that we received was from Doug Bartosh and Lisa Quam, offered at $40,000 cash, and they just want to keep the parcel as open space. They suggested in their proposal divided equally the parcel between their adjacent properties. This would, however, require a rezoning of the northern half of the parcel from R2 from the current C1, which is like commercial zoning. Gary, am I right? Okay. Also, consideration of the Old Town Special Planning Area would have to be considered. And then they did also, with their submittal, submit letters against the short-term rental of the opposed, the other proposal that was submitted. So both proposals were offering cash, and they did provide the financial backing for that. And the request for council from us tonight is asking direction to staff regarding the sale of this property.
Okay, great. Do we have any questions for staff at this moment? No? Okay. I think both applicants are here, so why don't we call up Mr. Schley, if you'd like, and then Mr. Bartosh. And is Ms. Quam here as well? Yeah, okay, great. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council, staff members of the City of Cottonwood. Our proposal is to take the piece of property, make it into a 1-story 1920, 1930 bungalow on 2nd Street. We currently own 2 other bungalows on 2nd Street. We own 914 and 922, both for short-term rentals. They have been completely gutted and rebuilt. We spent $160,000 on the 922 project after the purchase price of the property. That's to restore it. We spent $200,000 on the 914. Both of the properties have been awarded historical landmarks by the city of Cottonwood, and we received the certificates about a month ago, and we have the plaques, the bronze plaques, we got those. Both my wife and I are very much involved in the city of Cottonwood. We bought a home in Verde Valley about 20 years ago. We moved we actually don't live in Cottonwood, we actually live in Bridgeport, okay? But we're involved in it. I go to all the planning commission meetings, I go to all the other meetings. Another thing is, besides those, I was also part of the renovation of the 1906 post office in Cornville. Me and two other guys actually took it and restored it back to the original, and it sits back on the original property. All I can say is we're going to take the property, we're going to make it look like Old Town, and we're going to keep everything like that. It would be a one-story bungalow with a nice big porch. Our guests come to Cottonwood. Like I said, we have the 2 short-term rentals. We got a lot of reviews about it. We got a lot of really nice things about Cottonwood. And a couple of things is, my wife wrote up all the history of the 922 property. On the property, we have the oldest building in Cottonwood, we think. It's an adobe building built in 1876. We also have the horse trough on the property, and both of these have been preserved. And then the 1925 house has been preserved.
Okay.
So we're proposing to put a one-story bungalow, not to use more than 39% of the land as structure and overhang.
Okay.
And that's how I could, if there's any other questions, I'd be
Certainly.
happy to answer them.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schley. Any questions for Mr. Schley? No? Okay. If we can get Mr. Batosh and Ms. Quam up here to give us your presentation.
Well, there's 3 of us.
Then come, all 3 of you can come on up. You're more than welcome. And I don't mean to say that you have a presentation, just if you just let us know what your plans would be with the property.
I had put in a card so I could speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Diana Bartosh, and I live at 1010 North Cactus Street, Cottonwood. Thank you for considering our proposal. My husband and I have been residents and property owners in Old Town for 16 years. In 2012, we purchased the property at 112 East Pima Street for our son and his daughter to live in. He and his growing family have continued to live there and lease the property for 11 years. His house was originally built in 1929 and was expanded in 1949. During a time when building requirements were minimal, and the house was built right on the property line, on the north, south, and west sides of the property. The property has needed many costly improvements that we have made over the years. There's a small yard for his kids on the east side of the house, but it's difficult for the children to access and for them to be supervised because it's on the corner and he's not allowed a fence, so he's like a low wall, a low fence. Our proposal is to split the lot with Lisa Quam, allowing each of us to secure a proper yard. Hopefully you can see by the letters from his neighbors that we have attached and the email that a neighbor sent directly to the mayor, that this is a true neighborhood where neighbors care about each other and their quality of life. The closeness of this neighborhood is also represented by the joint proposal that we have submitted with our neighbor, Lisa Quam. Lisa has also been a longtime resident and property owner in Old Town. We have all seen the success of Old Town, and we appreciate investors taking advantage of investment opportunities. However, we have also seen a flood of new short-term rentals created by outside investors that are changing the character of our neighborhood and reducing the availability of long-term housing. These short-term rentals are also impacting our quality of life by housing short-term visitors who don't have the same concerns and respect for those that permanently reside in the neighborhood full-time. Mr. and Mrs. Shiley, who do not live in the city, already own the 2 short-term rentals north of Lisa's property, and there may be other short-term rentals on this very short block. Also, we are aware the property is zoned commercial, but the middle of a neighborhood is not the appropriate location for a commercial venture. We have a business to the west of our property on Pima that is out of business due to a lack of exposure. When they were in business, they created neighborhood challenges with parking and noise. A business, whether successful or not, would be a complete disruption to an otherwise peaceful neighborhood. Allowing another building in this small space would again impact both neighbors' quality of life, particularly if it is 2 stories. And I saw on one of his proposals that he was considering a 2-story building. Also, there is a required right-of-way easement on the north side of our property that has not been considered in the other proposal and will further reduce the allowable building space. This was not a strict highest bid process. This was a request for proposals that listed price as just one factor that should be considered. I submit to you that in this case, meeting the goals of the council and protecting the quality of life for an established neighborhood is far more valuable to Cottonwood than creating another investment opportunity for someone who lives outside the city. Thank you for your time and thoughtful consideration of our neighborhood's quality of life.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks everybody for being here and letting me speak about this. This is have really, I'm Lisa Quam. I'm on the with Josh and Doug on the other proposal at 908 North 2nd Street. And there have been problems, just a few, with the already existing rentals that are there. Traffic has increased only because of the rentals, but the owners always show up every day. So it's increasing in noise and air pollution. But, you know, I've been in that house for 15 years and I've really enjoyed the neighborhood. And it's changed a lot with a lot of rentals there. But, and on the neighbors that I've had, which is now not available to me or to anyone else to have another neighbor because it's an Airbnb or a short-term rental. And my whole thing about it is that if he puts up another one, it's like taking away what people actually come here to see and to be a part of, an Old Town community. And if you put up another one and another one and another one, people will not have places to live. And where are we going to put workers and where are we going to live and have a good neighborhood? And since we are in such need of housing, and that's a main drag right there for a lot of homeless to go to the Mission as well. So that's a parade that it kind of has to happen, unfortunately. And also, I experience lights in my bedroom window that are activated by sensors from animals, and it comes into my bedroom at night. From animals that just go in the backyard and not people. So I can't imagine what it's going to be like when they finish the backyard and have people back there. And it's going to be noisier. I'm not the only one. There's on First Street. There's a friend of mine that he's got 2 side-by-side Airbnbs on him, you know, and off his property. So they're increasing, and it's diminishing our community, I think. Over what? You know, what? Look in the future. Where is this going? How long are we going to put up with this? Next thing I know, there'll be an offer on my house, you know, let's turn it into an Airbnb. But there's more. It's like, I wrote a bunch of notes here. But that's pretty much the gist of what I have to say. And I've been in that in that house for a long time, and I've really wanted that property to expand and just to have a garden, you know, and my neighbors are very excited about that because we can all share in that. And keep it, you know, more human. And I also have a neighbor that wrote a letter, John Ziegler and his wife, Laura Logston. And I just want to read this for you, because they couldn't be here tonight. And this says, Dear Mayor Alinsky, as longtime residents of Old Town since 1995, we've seen many changes in our humble neighborhood, almost every last one for the better. One change that has not been terrible, but has also not done a lot to enhance our neighborhood quality of our neighborhood is the glut of short-term rentals throughout the couple of square miles of our district. We understand that a developer who does not live in our area, who built several short-term rentals, is interested in the lot on, you know, near Pima, and we enjoy walking our dogs to the field every evening and seeing a bit of open space behind Josh's house, and hold out hope that the space may be used for gardening or some other passive activity. We are thrilled when a family moved into a rental across the street from this lot and really enjoyed to see the parents and children along with others out and about. We are asking that you consider carefully how development decisions like short-term rentals impact families, homeowners, and renters like ourselves, and the quality of life we want in this sweet little neighborhood. We know you live on the other side of Main Street and also appreciate the appeal of our small-town environment here. And please support the proposal that Doug and Josh have presented, and myself, to help keep Old Town from being overdeveloped by outsiders. And I thank you, and they thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Kwan. Stick around if we have any questions, please, okay?
Any questions?
No, just stick around if we do have questions. We'll call you up. Thank you.
Okay.
Yep. Go ahead, Tricia.
Excuse me. I was just going to say that, you know, we're looking forward to having some council direction. So
Okay.
we'll just sit down and wait for the discussion.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Councilor, how would you like to proceed?
I am in favor of Bartosz Quam in the sense that I think it's more pro-Cottonwood, and it's the atmosphere we'd like to keep in Old Town. So that's my take on that. And even though it's $1,000 less, I don't think that's a big deal. I think it would be better for Cottonwood if we did that proposal.
Okay. Other council members?
I agree. I'm not real big on the whole short-term rental idea. I think we've got enough rentals out there that we just don't need another one. So I am in favor of the Bartosz Quam as well.
Okay. Same. Okay, great. Well, I'm familiar with Mr. Schle's work. I'm very well familiar with both those homes that you have restored, and you did an excellent job with them, and appreciate that you had those landmarked as well. But I agree with my colleagues here. I think we have a unique situation where two neighbors have come together in agreement on what best to do with that parcel that adjoins their two properties, and I think it's a good way that we can show support for that neighborhood and those neighbors, and try to maintain that quality and character that they have. As much as we need more rental units in Cottonwood, I know that we are very limited on the way that we can regulate short-term rentals, which is something we're challenged with right now because it is displacing long-term rentals. So in this situation, I feel like letting the Bartosz Quam agreement move forward would be great. Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I move to sell Yavapai County Assessor's parcel number 406-34-060 to, excuse me, Doug Bartosz and Lisa Quam for purchase price of $40,000. To authorize staff to take all appropriate actions required to close the transactions on reasonable and customary terms, and to authorize the sale of the property to the other proposer without further action by council in the event the elected proposer withdraws their offer or the sale to them does not close within a reasonable time as determined by the city manager.
Okay, I'll second that. So Vice Mayor made the motion, Mayor seconded it. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember DeWillis?
Yes.
Councilmember Duvernay?
Yes.
Councilmember Karat?
Yes.
Councilmember Naren?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Weldon?
Yes.
And Mayor Linsky?
Yes.
And the motion carries.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you. All right, I would motion to pay the claims and adjustments.
Second.
Okay, Mayor made the motion. I think Councilmember Karat seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I motion to adjourn. Second. Okay, Mayor made the motion. DeWillis seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thanks, Council.